Welcome to Reddit Stories, where a wild Karen is demanding OP's lottery winnings. Karen demands my lottery winnings because she paid for our family vacation. I'm 22, female. So basically, my aunt's always been that person who acts super generous just so she can hold it over your head later. A couple months ago, she decided to book this Airbnb lake house for a long weekend and insisted on paying for the whole place herself. She kept going on and on in the family group chat about how she just wanted to gather everyone together and do something nice for us because we had all been so stressed out lately. My boyfriend and I didn't really have the money to go on a vacation anyway, so we were like, okay, cool, thanks. The trip itself was a total mess from start to finish. The lake house looked amazing in the photos online, but when we got there, it smelled like damp towels and old fish. My aunt immediately claimed the master bedroom with the balcony, obviously. Then she spent the whole weekend acting like the drill sergeant of fun. If we wanted to just sit on the dock and relax, she'd start clapping her hands and yelling that it was time for mandatory board games or that we had to go to a group kayak ride. Every single meal was a giant production too. She bought all these groceries that we didn't ask for, and then every time someone made a sandwich or grabbed a soda, she'd make some passive-aggressive comment like, "Enjoy it, guys. This trip is costing me a fortune, but seeing you all happy is worth every penny." By day 2, my boyfriend and I were literally hiding out in our tiny basement bedroom just to get a break from her constant complaining about how much the pontoon boat rental was. Anyway, on the drive back home, my boyfriend and I were so relieved to finally be away from her. We stopped at this random dirty gas station in the middle of nowhere to get iced coffees and snacks. While I was standing at the counter waiting for him to pick out a bag of chips, I decided to buy a $5 scratch-off ticket on a total whim. I literally never buy these things, like ever. Well, I scratched it in the passenger seat while he was driving, and I ended up winning $25,000. I started screaming so loud that my boyfriend almost swerved off the road. I was crying, he was yelling, and we had to pull over into a fast food parking lot just to stare at the ticket and make sure that I wasn't hallucinating. We couldn't even believe it. Then I made the huge, catastrophic mistake of posting a picture of the winning ticket on Facebook that night because I was just so shocked and excited. Within like 10 minutes, my aunt called my phone. At first, she was acting all fake excited like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so happy for you guys. This is amazing." But then her voice changed super fast and she went completely cold. She literally told me that since she paid for the lake house vacation, I owe her at least 20% of the winnings. I was like, wait, what? And she goes, "Well, if I didn't pay for that trip, you wouldn't have been on that specific highway and you wouldn't have stopped at that gas station." She basically said her positive energy and her paying for the trip was the only reason the universe aligned for me to win. So it was technically her money too. Then, the next morning, she sent me this crazy, gigantic text with an itemized list of everything she spent on the lake house. She included the Airbnb rental cost, the gas for her own SUV, all the groceries she bought, the pontoon boat rental, and she even added a $500 organizing fee for planning the itinerary. The grand total she calculated that I magically owed her was exactly $5,000. Yeah, imagine that. When I texted her back and I told her no way, she started going completely insane. She began blowing up my mom's phone, texting my cousins, and dropping long rants in the family group chat, telling everyone that I took advantage of her sweet kindness and that I stole from her. The worst part was that some of my family actually started taking her side just because they didn't want to deal with her wrath. My mom literally called me crying, saying I should just give Karen the $5,000 just to keep the peace. She was like, "Honey, after taxes, $25,000 is only like $17,000 anyway. Just give her a little bit so she stops screaming at everyone." I couldn't believe my own family was gaslighting me like this over money that I won fair and square. My aunt started calling and texting me nonstop, leaving these crazy 2-minute-long voice notes where she was practically breathing heavy and threatening to hire a lawyer to sue me. Then, when that didn't work, she made this huge public Facebook post calling me an ungrateful sociopathic thief and she actually tagged my workplace and my local community groups in it. At that point, my boyfriend and I were totally done being polite. We completely stopped answering her calls and saved every single text message, screenshot, and psycho voice note that she sent us. My boyfriend's uncle is actually an attorney, so we called him up to ask what we should do, and he literally started laughing on the phone. He said that whoever physically purchased and signed the back of the scratch-off owns 100% of the money. He typed up a quick cease and desist letter on his firm's letterhead and had it sent directly to her house. When she got that official letter in the mail, she called my mom, throwing a total hysterical fit. My mom put her on speaker, and I got to hear her literally screaming because she finally realized she wasn't getting a single penny from me and that a real lawyer was involved now. It was honestly so embarrassing for a grown woman to act like that. I ended up blocking her on every single platform, deleting my old social media accounts, and changing my phone number so I never have to deal with her toxic drama again. After the state and federal taxes came out, I got around $18,000 deposited into my account. My boyfriend and I paid off both of our credit cards completely, put the rest into a high-yield savings account for a house down payment, and used a tiny bit of it to take a quiet, peaceful weekend trip, just the two of us, with no mandatory board games included. So glad you didn't let her bully you into giving her the money. This reminds me of something similar that happened to me a couple of years ago. I ended up winning $500 at a raffle at this huge swap meet. Well, my cousin was the one who drove us there that morning. The exact second that I walked over with the cash in my hand, she turned to me and was like, "Okay, so you're giving me $100, right?" I was totally confused and was like, "Wait, for what?" And she said, "Well, I drove you here, so if I didn't drive you, then you wouldn't even have bought the raffle ticket." I had already paid her $15 for gas before we even left my house. When I told her no and offered to buy her lunch instead to say thanks, she lost her mind. On the drive home, she stayed completely silent. Then the next day, she started group texting our whole family saying I was selfish. She kept saying it was about the principle. I ended up just cutting her off completely because if you're going to throw a temper tantrum and ruin a relationship over $100 from a swap meet raffle, you were never my friend in the first place. Haven't spoken to her in almost 2 years now, and my life is so much more peaceful without her around. Girl, congrats on winning the money and shutting down your crazy aunt. But I have to be honest with you about one thing. Paying off your boyfriend's credit card was a huge mistake. I know you guys are still together right now and everything feels great, but you two aren't married. Plus, I've seen your other posts about how he's cheated on you multiple times and you always just forgive him. You literally just gave away a huge chunk of your actual cash to pay off debt that isn't even in your name. If you guys break up in 6 months or a year, which happens way more often than people think in their 20s, he walks away completely debt-free on your dime, and you can't even get that money back. There's no way to make an ex pay you back for something like that unless you made him sign a contract beforehand. I've seen this exact same thing happen to so many of my friends. They pay off a partner's credit cards or car loan thinking, we're a team, and then a year later, the guy bounces, and they're left sitting there realizing they just threw thousands of dollars down the drain. I learned the hard way through a divorce with my deadbeat husband. I hope you don't end up in the same boat. OP. Excuse me? First of all, you don't know anything about my relationship, so who do you think you are coming in here telling me what's a mistake and what isn't? We've been together for 4 years. We live together, we share a life together, and he was the one who drove me home, supported me, and literally had my back when my entire family was turning against me. Everyone has their issues, but I've forgiven him and we've moved past those chapters you dug into my past and brought up. He isn't just some boyfriend I met last week. He's my partner. When you're in a committed relationship, you act like a team. His debt was stressing us both out, so paying it off benefited both of us because now we can actually save for a house down payment without that hanging over our heads. It's honestly sad and bitter that you can't even fathom a relationship where people actually love and support each other without keeping score or expecting the worst to happen. Just because whatever men you dated screwed you over doesn't mean my boyfriend is going to bounce. Keep your toxic, unsolicited advice to yourself because you have zero right to judge my life or how I spend my money. Just because your husband was a loser who used you doesn't mean my boyfriend is the same way. So get off your high horse. Oh wow, sounds like I hit a nerve, didn't I? The fact that you just threw a temper tantrum over basic common sense tells me everything I need to know about you. You sound like an insecure, brainless teenager who can't handle a single drop of reality. 4 whole years? Wow, someone give her a trophy. Do you honestly think 4 years in your mid-20s means anything? You aren't married. You have 0 legal protection. He's cheated on you multiple times. The way you speak makes it painfully obvious how unbelievably immature and clueless you actually are. You're sitting here screaming, "We're a team," like a naive child while he's laughing all the way to the bank with a zeroed-out credit card balance on your dime. It's honestly a shame that it's always the stupidest, most financially illiterate people who get lucky and win the lottery. You got handed a golden ticket out of debt, and instead of being smart, you blew it on a guy who's gonna leave your broke, uneducated butt the second a better option comes along. Can't wait for the update post in 6 months when he dumps you and you're crying on Reddit about how he won't pay you back. Stay mad and stay broke, sweetie. Look at these two fighting in the comments like stray dogs over a hot dog wrapper. It's honestly a miracle either of you even knows how to type. Yowza, that's pretty harsh, Karen. Harsh, but real. This girl's out here funding her cheating boyfriend's credit card, and this commenter's projecting her own bitter divorce onto a stranger. And you're just sitting here adjusting your microphone, reading it all out loud like some sort of audiobook. Come on, Karen. They're just living their lives the best way they know how. Honey, the only thing these two are living is a severe lack of financial literacy/codependence and a terminal case of internet brain rot. Hopefully in our next story, at least one person has a functioning brain cell. Don't get your hopes up, Karen. You know how Reddit is. For every thumbs up this video gets, one confused Redditor gets a brain cell back. Yeah, and never fight with people online. You won't win, you'll just get really stressed out. And the people who read your argument will just feel really glad that they're not you. My friend accused me of stealing her boyfriend. My boyfriend has no idea that they were even dating. I, 26 female, have been friends with Carly, also 26 female, since middle school. We drifted apart after I moved out of state for law school, but our parents stayed close. I moved back home last year after graduating and I met Matt, who's 25 male. We clicked almost immediately. We're both studying to become lawyers, so between work, school, and trying to have some kind of life, we've taken things very slowly. We only recently made things official. After we became official, I invited Matt to my sister's 21st birthday party. It was a huge party at my parents' house in my hometown. Matt and I both live about an hour away, so it was a nice chance for him to meet more of my family. We had been there for about an hour when Carly arrived with her parents. I was genuinely excited to see her because I had been meaning to reconnect since moving back. The second she spotted us, she came right over. What surprised me was that she immediately gave Matt a huge hug and asked him what he was doing there. It turned out they work in the same office building. Not the same company, just the same building. Matt also knows a few of her friends and has gone to group outings with them from time to time. Thinking nothing of it, I introduced him properly and said, "Carly, this is my boyfriend, Matt." The change in her face was instant. She looked shocked at first, then angry. After that, she ignored me for the rest of the party. The next morning, I sent her a message asking if I had done something wrong. That's when everything exploded. Carly accused me of stealing her boyfriend. Within hours, I was getting messages from mutual friends from high school asking how I could do this to her. A few people were acting like I had broken up a serious relationship. The problem was that I had absolutely no idea what they were talking about. I met up with Matt and I asked him what was going on. At first, I thought maybe there had been some misunderstanding about exclusivity. Matt looked completely confused. When I explained Carly's accusation, he just stared at me. According to him, they had never dated, never gone out alone, except occasionally bumping into each other and grabbing coffee during lunch breaks, never kissed, never had any romantic conversations, and never discussed being together. He said he considered her a friend and nothing more. Now, it's been about a week since the party, and I'm still getting messages. Even my parents have been dragged into it because Carly apparently told her mom that I stole her boyfriend, and that her mom called mine to complain. My poor mother got pulled into high school level drama that she doesn't even understand. The weirdest part is that none of Matt's work friends have contacted me. The only people sending messages are mutual friends of mine and Carly's from years ago, most of whom have never even met Matt. I trust Matt, but this whole thing has rattled me. Carly has never acted like this before, at least not that I've ever seen. We've known each other for over a decade, and while we've drifted apart at times, this behavior is completely out of character. I've finally spoken to her and we're meeting tomorrow so I can hear her side of the story directly. At this point, I just want to know what the heck is going on. It sounds like you accidentally walked into Carly's fantasy that she had been building for months. One thing that stands out is she wasn't angry at Matt, right? She was angry at you. If she genuinely believed they were dating, wouldn't she have confronted him at the party too? Instead, she immediately focused on the person he showed up with. That makes me wonder if she knew deep down that they weren't actually together and was reacting to the fact that someone else got there first. Either way, you're doing the right thing by meeting her. Before everyone labels Carly as completely unhinged, you need to hear her version directly. The truth is usually somewhere between Matt is secretly cheating and Carly invented an entire relationship out of thin air. Ask questions. Lots of questions. If they were dating, there should be evidence. Photos together, private messages, dates, plans, something. If they've been in a relationship long enough for people to accuse you of stealing her boyfriend, there should be more than vague stories and hurt feelings. Right now, all anyone has is Carly's claim versus Matt's confusion. The fact that she was surprised to see him at the party is also interesting. If he was supposedly her boyfriend, why was she asking what he was doing there? That part alone makes her whole story feel very strange. I've actually seen something similar happen before. A friend of mine mistook friendliness for romantic interest. Other people in the group started encouraging it, asking questions, teasing them, and acting like they were practically a couple. Meanwhile, the guy had absolutely no idea any of this was happening. By the time reality caught up, one person thought they were in a relationship, and the other thought they had simply made a new friend. Hopefully that's not what's happening here, but I wouldn't be shocked if Carly interpreted group hangouts, casual conversations, and friendly attention as something much bigger than Matt ever intended. Update. Well, I met up with Carly. Good news is that Matt is not a cheater. So we met at a coffee shop in our hometown. Carly clearly didn't want to be there, but after the week I just had, I was pretty much over worrying about her comfort level. I sat down, I told her exactly what Matt had said, and asked her to explain everything from the beginning. So here's what actually happened. Carly met Matt last year through mutual friends in the office building where they both work. Someone invited him to after-work drinks, they got along well, and he gradually became part of that social circle. Carly thought he was attractive and started flirting with him. Now, a quick side note. Matt is absolutely terrible at recognizing when someone's flirting with him. It took me weeks to get through to him when we first started talking. The funny thing is that he's naturally charismatic and outgoing, which somehow makes him even more oblivious. So, as Carly told her story, it became obvious that Matt had never realized she was interested. They never went on a date. They never spent time alone apart from occasionally grabbing coffee during lunch breaks if they happened to run into each other. They never kissed. They never held hands. They never visited each other's apartments. They never exchanged romantic messages. In fact, I went through the messages on Carly's phone, and the only conversations she had for Matt were in a group chat. Eventually, I asked the question that had been driving me crazy all week. If none of that happened, why did you think he was your boyfriend? Her answer was, almost word for word, "Okay, so we weren't officially boyfriend and girlfriend yet, but I was sure he was going to ask me out really soon. He's always smiling at me and making jokes. I know he was going to ask me out." That was it. That was the relationship. I explained that Matt smiles and jokes with everyone. That's just his personality. I told her we had actually been seeing each other for quite a while and had only recently become official because we had both been busy with work and law school. As I said it, I could practically see the fantasy in her head falling apart in real time. Once it was clear there had never been a secret relationship, I asked her to correct the story with her parents and with our mutual friends. She looked embarrassed, mumbled something that sounded like, "Yeah, fine," and didn't really say much else. I left shortly afterward and called Matt while driving to his apartment. When I explained everything, he was completely baffled. Later, he showed me a text he sent her. "Hey Carly, look, I'm sorry if I misled you in any way. Please know anything I've done has only ever come from a friendly place. I see us as friends, but that's all. I hope we can be friends again once this is all blown over. But if you're not comfortable with that, I understand. All the best, Matt." She hasn't responded, and I don't know if she ever will. At this point, I'm washing my hands of the entire mess. Hopefully she tells people the truth. Hopefully the rumors stop, and hopefully everyone involved can move on. As for me, I'm focusing on my relationship with Matt and my studies. So to summarize, Carly liked Matt, Matt was friendly. Carly decided that meant he was about to ask her out. Then when he showed up with an actual girlfriend, she skipped several steps and jumped straight to "someone stole my boyfriend." No misunderstanding caused by Matt there, just her wishful thinking that got completely out of control. I actually feel a little bad for Carly. Not because she was right, she absolutely wasn't. What she did to you was unfair. The rumor spreading, involving parents, and getting friends involved was way over the line. Still, I think what happened is that she built an entire future in her head. Every smile became evidence. Every joke became a signal. Every group outing became another step toward a relationship. Then reality showed up all at once at your sister's birthday party. That had to be a rough crash landing. I feel bad for Carly right up until the point where she started telling everyone OP stole her boyfriend. Having a crush on a guy and misreading the situation is understandable. Starting a whole smear campaign, getting your parents involved, and telling everyone someone stole a boyfriend you never actually had is where my sympathy starts running out. So let me get this straight. Carly accused OP of stealing her boyfriend. And the boyfriend's response was basically, "Wait, I'm involved in this?" Poor Matt. He thought he had a coworker. Carly thought she had a future husband. She was already picking out curtains, and he didn't even know they were dating. I, 36 female, bought a brand new boat, and I don't want my man, 39 male, of 5 years to come with me when I pick it up. About 5 years ago, I pretty much picked my man up out of a ditch. I don't mean that literally, but that's how it feels when I look back. I helped him while sacrificing just about everything I had. My time, my money, friendships, and a huge part of my own life. I loved him, and at the time, he genuinely needed help. He had lost custody of his kids and was drinking a fifth of Jack every day. I honestly don't know how much longer he would have lasted if things had kept going that way. Fast forward to today, and his life is completely different. I like to joke that I fixed him, even though I know people can't really fix other people. Over those 5 years, I've spent what has to be close to $100,000 helping him get back on his feet. That doesn't even include groceries, bills, or other everyday expenses. I bought things for his kids, paid for new tires and windshields on 2 of his vehicles, bought him tools, antique fishing lures he collects, a live scope for his boat, an ice house, and I was constantly helping watch his kids whenever he needed it. For the record, I don't drink or smoke and would like to think I'm a pretty reasonable person. Recently, I asked if I could borrow his boat for 1 day during my vacation. It's an older Mercury-based boat, and I'd been planning this trip for a long time because one of my girlfriends was coming to visit. We had talked about it before, and he'd always made it sound like it wouldn't be a problem. He uses my things all the time, so I really didn't think I was asking for anything unreasonable. He said no. It hurt a lot more than I expected. I know helping someone shouldn't come with strings attached, and I wasn't keeping a score over everything I've done for him. At the same time, after everything we've built together, I never imagined I'd be told I couldn't borrow the boat for a single day, especially when he was going to be working anyway. It wasn't just the answer that bothered me, it was how completely out of nowhere it felt. Looking back, I think this might have been the final straw rather than the whole problem. Lately, I've started noticing that he seems jealous, not only of my friends, but sometimes even of me. My friends are all women, so it's not a jealousy over other men. It's almost like he gets a burst of energy whenever something in my life becomes difficult. I can't really explain it, but that's how it feels. That whole situation made me stop and think about something I had been putting off for a long time. I've always loved fishing. It's one of the biggest passions in my life. He loves bass fishing, while I'm happy chasing smallmouth, walleye, or northern pike. I finally decided that instead of arguing over his boat anymore, I just buy my own. So I did. I went to Bass Pro Shops and bought a brand new 2026 Ranger bass boat. I feel proud that I'm 36 years old buying a 2026 Ranger in 2026. My friend is coming with me when I pick it up, and we're going to spend the day breaking in the motor together. The truth is, I don't want my boyfriend there. I don't even want to share that moment with him. Part of that is because I don't trust that he'd actually be happy for me. The more I think about it, the more I realize this isn't really about borrowing his boat. Whenever we fish together, I feel like he sets me up to fail. He's an excellent fisherman, way better than I am in a lot of ways. Yet whenever we're out on the water, it almost feels like he's competing against me instead of fishing with me. He always positions the boat so he gets the best casts along the shoreline while I'm left fishing from the back. If I finally look like I'm about to catch something, he'll suddenly speed up with the trolling motor or reposition the boat before I get the chance. I eventually bought myself expensive rods just so I could cast farther and actually reach the fish he had already been targeting. Whenever I suggest moving the boat a little so I can fish a different angle, he throws a fit, and loud too. He'd call me names right there on the lake while people are sitting on nearby docks or balconies. It's embarrassing, and he knows it embarrasses me. Then on the drive home, he'll put his hand on my knee, use kind of like a little baby voice and say, "Sorry." That cycle has become so normal that I barely react anymore. The more I write this, the more ridiculous it sounds. Okay, so back to the boat. I tried convincing myself the boat wasn't a big deal, but the more I thought about it, the more hurt I felt. We had talked about me using it for months. He knew how important that vacation was to me, and he wasn't even going to be around because he had to work. His explanation was that I didn't know enough about boats and couldn't possibly understand why he said no. Maybe if he had always been protective of it, I would have accepted that. Instead, it felt like the rules changed the second it mattered to me. If I had known all along that I'd never really be allowed to use it, I probably would have bought my own boat much sooner. After I bought my Ranger, I didn't exactly make some big announcement. I just posted about it online. The funny thing is, now that I'm no longer spending all my extra money helping him, I can actually afford nice things for myself. What bothers me now is that he suddenly wants to be part of this milestone. He always wants to know where I am, what I'm doing, who I'm with. He says he wants to marry me and never wants me out of his sight. But lately, I get this awful feeling in my stomach whenever he says things like that. If this were really the man I'm supposed to marry, why do we suddenly need 2 bass boats? I would have happily bought a river boat or even a pontoon for family outings if I had known we'd be sharing his bass boat. Instead, I spent a quarter of my yearly salary buying my own because he wouldn't let me borrow his for one day. That's what keeps bothering me. This isn't the only thing that's happened either. I mentioned to a friend that I wanted to tell one of my coworkers about a nice fishing spot near his house. My coworker is an older guy who's training me at work. His wife is extremely jealous, so he and I barely communicated outside of work. Somehow, my boyfriend overheard that conversation, thought about it for several days, tracked my coworker down on Facebook, and messaged him telling him to get his fishing spots from his own wife. Guess who saw that message? His wife. That turned something completely innocent into an awkward situation at work that never needed to happen. Then, almost overnight, he started telling people I was his wife, while also posting online about how proud he was that I'd worked so hard and bought a brand new Ranger. It almost feels like he wants credit for my accomplishments after spending years making them harder to achieve. The same thing happened with one of my favorite hobbies. I love buying and selling antique fishing lures. I've been doing it for years and built a really successful online business. At one point, I was shipping close to 100 packages a day. He asked if he could learn so he could help me grow the business, and I was excited to teach him. Before long, I noticed packages going out that had nothing to do with my store. He had quietly started his own business selling antique lures instead. Then I caught him taking some of the nicest lures I had just bought at an auction and hanging them on his own display board like I wouldn't notice they had disappeared. Little things keep happening too. He'll swap out the fishing tackle I specifically bought with cheaper versions without asking. He'll remove a lure from one of my rods, leaving the line hanging through the guides, and toss it back into the locker like nothing happened. None of those things are huge by themselves, but together they make me feel like he has no respect for my belongings. The same attitude spills over into other parts of our lives. I'll invite my girlfriends over for a barbecue, and 5 minutes before they arrive, he'll suddenly complain that he's not anybody's servant and start insulting my friends. Then later he'll act like nothing happened. That's become a pattern with him. He embarrasses me, tears me down, apologizes afterward, and somehow expects everything to go back to normal. I know this post has gotten ridiculously long, so I'll finally get back to the boat. I don't want him there when I pick it up. I don't think he'd genuinely be happy for me. I think he'd find some way to criticize me, take over the experience, or somehow make the day about himself. Fishing isn't just a hobby to me, it's one of the biggest joys in my life, and I need a partner who either supports that passion or simply lets me enjoy it in peace. Deep down, I think he treats me poorly often enough that I don't want to share one of the happiest moments of my life with him. If I brought any of this up, I'm almost certain he'd somehow convince me that I was the unreasonable one. Am I overreacting, or is the fact that I don't even want him standing beside me when I pick up my dream boat telling me everything I need to know about this relationship? This isn't about the boat. The boat was just the thing that finally made you stop and look at everything else. He accepts your generosity without hesitation, borrows your things whenever he wants, and then refuses to let you borrow his for one day. He embarrasses you in public, interferes with your hobbies, creates problems at your job, and somehow finds a way to make your accomplishments about himself. You don't have a boat problem. You have a boyfriend problem. You know what stood out to me? It wasn't the money or even the boat. It was when you said you don't want him there because you're afraid he'll ruin one of the happiest days of your life. Read that sentence again. Someone who truly loves you should be one of the first people you want standing beside you when something wonderful happens. Instead, you're trying to figure out how to enjoy your accomplishment without him taking the joy out of it. That's a humongous red flag. Having written all of this, I think you already know the answer. This isn't one disagreement about borrowing a boat. It's years of him putting you down, accepting your help while refusing to return it, taking your belongings, trying to compete with your hobbies, creating unnecessary drama, and making you feel smaller whenever you're doing well. One or two of those things might be something a couple can work through. All of them together paint a very different picture. Go pick up your new boat with your friend, celebrate it, then ask yourself a serious question. If being with him makes your biggest accomplishments feel smaller instead of bigger, what exactly is he bringing to your life? You know, I kept waiting for the story to become about the boat. Instead, it became a list of reasons she should stop being first mate to the captain. I'm just glad she finally bought her dream boat. Good. Now she just needs to throw one more thing overboard. Am I the jerk for not having catered vegan food at my wedding? I, 27 female, got married recently. I invited my friend, 27 female, and her partner, and she was excited to come along. They live in another country, a 3.5-hour flight away, so coming isn't easy or cheap for them. We asked 7 months before the wedding about dietary needs, and she told us her and her partner would need vegan options. Since my dinner included veggie options, I wrongly assumed that the caterer would also do vegan ones. But when I asked 1.5 months before the wedding, I learned they couldn't. I should have asked earlier. Unfortunately, some things came up and delayed our prep. I informed my friend, saying that I was sorry, initially asking her if she had ideas about what we could do. Maybe I was in the wrong there. And then offering to cook something myself or buy something from a supermarket. But the conversation turned quite cold, and the next day, she said she decided not to come to the wedding or to the bachelorette that was happening the following week, even though there was no catering issue there. She said her decision was final and we could speak after the wedding, as she didn't want to upset me the day before. After a couple of days, I asked if she could help me understand her decision, and she said that she found it disrespectful that I didn't have a suitable vegan option for her and her partner so close to the date, even though they told me with plenty of notice. I felt extremely hurt and blindsided, especially since I feel she didn't give me a chance to find a solution together. I kind of understood not coming to the wedding, even though I'm vegetarian and attended plenty of weddings that we didn't have veggie options, but that's her call. But not skipping the bachelorette, since we could easily have planned for vegan food. Now I'm not sure I want to be friends with her anymore. Am I the jerk? Some bits of context. There were no restrictions at our venue for bringing home-cooked or outside food. I genuinely thought a home-cooked meal was a nice option, but I'm seeing that many of you think otherwise. Our dinner was a type of food with a base and toppings, and there was no other type of food available as the caterers specialize in that, but it caters to most since you can just choose the toppings. I knew for sure it was vegetarian, didn't know they couldn't or wouldn't want to make a separate vegan batch. I told my friend about this casually over text while we were discussing the bachelorette. I now see that I probably shouldn't have mentioned it until I could give her more detail in a call. I thought it would be nice to keep her in the loop and know what she preferred, but I now see that that probably made her feel like a burden, which I'm very sorry about. Overall, I understand that the biggest mistake I made was clearly leaving it so late to sort it out. The second and most stupid mistake was bringing up supermarket food, which obviously isn't a viable option. And the third mistake was telling my friend about it and asking for her input, as it probably made her feel like a burden. I will now wait and see if she wants to reach out and take things from there if she does. You're the jerk. You asked about their dietary needs. You told her that you could accommodate her. I have a hard time believing you didn't know the difference between vegetarian and vegan. You should have clearly asked the caterer about vegan options. Truthfully, if you simply didn't ask her about her dietary needs, I would have ruled different. I didn't ask any of my wedding guests about their needs. I just had 3 options that were on the wedding invite, so no one was surprised what food would be there. If anyone declined because of the food, I would have had no way of knowing. Everyone sucks here. You should have been more specific and checked with the caterer earlier. Since they couldn't accommodate your guests, you should have arranged for specific meals for your friend and her partner to be catered by a third party to make up for your mistake. That's on you. She should have been a little more cooperative and less reactive. But honestly, it sounds like the bonds of your friendship were weaker than each of you had thought. There doesn't seem to be much real affection or caring about the other one, and there seems to be a lot of excessively hurt feelings at the other's acts or omissions. You're the jerk for not communicating with your caterer properly and thinking a supermarket-bought food will be the same level as food served by them. Definitely your friends are not beggars that you serve them second-class food while others get better ones. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or her friend? Please let us know. I'm a cakein. I only go to weddings where they serve cake. No cake, no me, no exceptions. Would I be the jerk if I asked a member of the wedding party to wear something to cover their hair? I'm getting married this fall. One member of the wedding party has neon yellow-green hair and has said they plan on keeping that color for the foreseeable future, including for the wedding. I did not know this person had dyed their hair until after I'd asked them to be in the wedding party. They've dyed their hair a few times in the past, but never their whole head. More of just highlights and low-key stuff, but never a color this bright, so honestly, I just didn't see it coming. Everyone else has more muted colors of hair, and the dresses and tuxedos are also on the grayscale, so it's going to stand out. I know it's just hair, it's their choice, and I'm trying to be as respectful as possible. However, I also frankly don't want to look at my wedding pictures for the rest of my life and have the first thing I notice be their neon hair. It seriously draws the eye. Some ideas we've come up with to mitigate this. 1. Make all the photos of the wedding party in black and white. 2. Ask the photographer to edit this person's hair to a not neon yellow-green color, which may also be a jerk move. Still feel weird about that. Opinions are welcome. Or 3. The option someone proposed that I'm really conflicted about. Ask the person to wear a wide lace headband or a wrap that covers most of their hair and style it pulled back so that it's more or less tucked away for most of the pictures. If it matters, we bought and rented dresses and tuxedos for everyone and would pay for this accessory too. And we're paying for hair to be done professionally for the wedding party, because if I'm going to ask people to look a certain way for an event for me, I don't want to then force them to pay for it. But I can't tell if this would be taking my input a step too far. It was a little awkward when I asked how long they were planning to keep their hair neon, and I just asked coming from a place of curiosity, not asking specifically about the wedding, so I think they might get mad at me if I ask them to more or less hide it. Would I be the jerk if I asked this person to wear a hairpiece or a style that covers most of their neon hair for my wedding? Edit. I'm asking, would I be the jerk for asking them to consider a hairpiece, not telling them this is what I want or they'll be out of the wedding? If they're not comfortable with the hairpiece, then I'll ask how they'd feel if there was editing or color balance adjustments to the photos to tone it down. And if that's still a no, then we'd just pick black and white photos. We get one professional album with our photography pack, so we just make the whole thing black and white photos. We'd still have digital copies of all of the photos in color and not. Just the ones we'd hang in our house and stuff would probably be black and white. No one is getting kicked out of the wedding for how they look. No one is going to be forced to do anything. Do you think they won't tone it down for the wedding? OP. They have an important event shortly after the wedding, so I was like, oh hey, what are you thinking hair-wise for that event? And they were like, oh, definitely keeping it this way. so I know for a fact this will be the color it is. If they had planned to dye it less neon for that event anyway, I was just going to ask if they'd be willing to make the switch before the wedding. Obviously, I can't ask them to dye their hair. I was only hoping they might want to change anyway, given they might not want it neon for the other event. But especially since they want it neon for that after the wedding, I know it's neon for sure. Do you have a response ready for if she says no? No jerks here. Either way, it's your wedding. You can do what you want. But just curious, is this more of a question or an ultimatum? You're the jerk. If you're picking your wedding party based on aesthetics, drop this person. If you chose this person based on a relationship, the person comes hair and all. Explaining yourself is an option which may bring a favorable outcome. However, it's possible to lose your relationship. OP. It's not a matter of being in or out of the wedding party. This person is in the wedding party no matter what. Even if they decided to shave the sides and have a hot pink and black mohawk day of, I'd be irked, but we'd roll with it. Update 6 months later. My wedding day was amazing. I'm so glad to not only be married, but also to be done with wedding planning because it was a lot. Some people said I was shallow to even care about the hair in pictures at all, and yeah, I probably am. I accept that. The hair does stand out a lot in the color pictures, and the person had their natural roots, which looked absolutely awful. I'm not going to lie, I found it incredibly rude they dyed their hair neon and then didn't even bother to make sure it was maintained for being in a wedding. But in black and white, everything looks totally fine, and I love black and white pictures anyway. They also got married a bit after my wedding. The jerk voice in my head couldn't help but note that they bothered to get their roots done for their own wedding. I complained to my husband a bit in our hotel room after the rehearsal, got it out of my system, had a great time at their wedding. I guess all this to say, whether or not it would have been a jerk move to ask them to cover their hair, as people pointed out, it wasn't worth it. The hair did bother me. I am a little shallow, I am a little selfish, but it wasn't as big of a deal as I was making it out to be. It was better to keep all shallow, selfish, and jerk thoughts to myself and my husband, work on acceptance and move on. Writing this is my closure. I will spare no more thoughts or energy for the neon hair. Thank you all for helping me find perspective. Edit. Just to clarify some questions I've seen come up, since people have cared enough to message me about it. Were our weddings far apart enough? I paid for everything I could to help take off the burden. Dresses, tuxedos, hair, even offered people places to stay if they didn't want to do it hotel. If they had told me it was a money issue, I'd gladly have paid for the roots to be done too, if they told me they needed help. I know people are in various financial situations. I told my wedding party if there were any financial challenges coming up in being a part of my wedding to please tell me and I would help because I didn't want it to be a burden. I think when you are in a wedding, you're agreeing to maintain your appearance and hygiene for that day. You're going to shower before, you're going to brush your hair and teeth, you're going to do what you need to do to be presentable. In my perspective, if you dye your hair a very attention-grabbing color that differs dramatically from your natural hair color, then you make sure the dye job looks decent and well done and not an inch grown out, and that's part of looking presentable for a formal event. The weddings were months apart. They got their roots touched up not too long after my wedding, and then again the weekend of their wedding. I felt it was rude because it was clear the person did consider it something important to do for the other event in their life, just not for my wedding. And that to me shows a lack of care, especially when again, I would have paid for it. Additionally, I was in their wedding and paid for my dress and for their bachelorette party. They did not contribute to or come to mine. And you know what? All of that is fine. They're well in their right to do whatever they want with their money and their hair. It just all added up and I found it rude. It is what it is with respect to that friend. I am unbelievably happy with my wedding day and my black and white pictures, and I'm so grateful to be married and to have had all my friends by my side for the day, regardless of their hair. Am I the jerk for telling my husband that I would never have agreed to have his baby if I knew he would go back on our agreement? I, 36 female, am a neurologist, and I absolutely love my patients and my job. I believe there's no greater honor in life than being able to help others. The road to my medical degree was not easy, and it was paved with many rejections. I was a troubled teen in high school, and I didn't get accepted into any colleges my senior year. I had to work my way up, starting with remedial classes at my local community college. When I finally got into medical school at 26, I was absolutely thrilled. I met my husband, 37 male, in my third year of medical school. We've been married for 4 years now. My husband works in marketing, and I make 3 times his salary. From the beginning of our relationship, I was very upfront that I was unsure about having biological kids. My dream was always to adopt from foster care, and my husband seemingly understood this. However, after his best friend had a baby boy last year, he began to really press me on having kids. I was initially very against this idea because I was just beginning my career. I wanted to wait a few more years before revisiting the topic of having kids. In August of last year, I found out I was unexpectedly pregnant. I was initially considering not having it, but after many heartfelt conversations with my husband, we decided to keep the baby, and he would quit his job and stay home until our daughter was old enough to start preschool. There were several factors that went into our decision to have him stay home with our daughter. I make significantly more money than him, so financially, it just made more sense. I'm in the first few years of my career as an attending physician. After 4 years of med school and a 4-year residency, I'm just starting to practice on my own, whereas my husband has been in his career for 15 years. I was very clear I had absolutely zero desire to stay home and be a housewife. I respect stay-at-home mothers, but my work is my life, and I would go crazy at home all day. This just isn't a lifestyle I want whatsoever. Finally, I'm not comfortable putting my kid in daycare until she's old enough to talk. Our daughter is 9 weeks old today, and I'm preparing to return to my practice in a few weeks. This weekend, I left my husband alone with our daughter while I attended a medical conference out of state. The conference was amazing, but when I returned home, my husband began acting weird. Today, when our daughter was napping, I pressed him to tell me what was wrong. He absolutely broke down and said he doesn't think he can do this. He expressed how trapped, alone, and overwhelmed he felt all weekend. He now wants me to extend my maternity leave and is talking about trying to get his job back. This made me freak out, and I asked, "Well, what will we do with our daughter now?" He responded by suggesting I leave my practice and work from home. I said absolutely not, and he suggested daycare. At this point, I just lost it and screamed, "If I knew you were going to back out of your promise to take care of our daughter, I would have never had your baby." I know I completely overreacted, and I would never trade our daughter for anything. I love her so much, but I am so upset with my husband, and I'm not sure how to move forward at this point. Not the jerk. You expressed boundaries and rules, and he's crossed them. Stick to your boundaries. If he's unwilling, consider how important that boundary is to you and how far you're willing to enforce it. A kid isn't something someone can be so flippant over, and "I changed my mind" is unacceptable if he's the one that pushed for it in the first place. Also, economically, it makes no sense. Not the jerk. You didn't overreact. He needs a wake-up call. You only gave him something so enormous and major, his own biological kid, because he promised not to destroy your career and trap you as a mother. Now he's discovering that raising a kid is non-stop hard work and something you were aware of before you ever got pregnant. Quite frankly, he only has two paths forward. Either he can be a stay-at-home dad and have all the support of a working spouse who comes home to share parenting, or you can divorce him and he can be a single father who gets child support. But he can't trick you into having his kid and then claim that it's too hard to be a father, so you have to give up your life and dreams in order to become a supporting character of his dreams. Am I the jerk for pretending to be in the hospital to avoid my ex on Father's Day? I, 25 female, am currently 5 months pregnant with my ex-husband. Gotta love American Midwest early marriages. It's not like we hate each other, but our relationship did not end on good terms, and I quite literally had to leave our home in the middle of the night because every time I tried to leave him, he would beg me to stay and I would give in. I just knew I couldn't raise a baby with him, so I had to do a runner. We got married at 19 and 23, and we're currently 25 and 29. Anyway, my dad and I do not speak, so my tradition on Father's Day was to hang out with my ex. Even before we were together, as we've always known each other growing up. Even though we're splitting, he's been insistent on taking me out this Father's Day since he's going to be a father this year, and he considers it his first Father's Day. The issue here is, he still had feelings for me, and he wants me to take him back, and every time I try to see him, for doctor's appointments or lawyer meetings, he begs me to take him back, and it's just not nice. I told him a few times, like at least 10, that I was not going to see him this Father's Day because my family has started a tradition of doing a big family cookout for Father's Day. I told him that I wasn't comfortable going out because being pregnant, I get sick all the time, and I told him I didn't think it was right for us to be going out together anymore since we're exes. He's asked to come to the cookout, which is a no-no because my older brother is crazy. He said that he would pop by with a gift, and I turned that down. Eventually, I got the message he wasn't taking no for an answer, no matter what. I lied and told him that the cookout was actually going to be held 3 hours away at my uncle's ranch, and he said, "Bet, I'll drive over in the evening and see you." This was the night before Father's Day, so my hands were tied. This is where I may be the jerk. I waited until morning and then said that I had thrown up so much the night before that my mom took me to the hospital and I was being treated for dehydration. I said it was a minor issue, but I was going to be kept all day and I couldn't make it. My brother was in on it and volunteered to be the person who kept him updated all day on my condition. Turns out, he wasn't happy with that, so he drove down to the town where I said I was going to be, and he went to the local hospital and asked to see me. Obviously, he found out I lied, and he's extremely upset with me. My ex-in-laws that I still get along with are so mad at me and want me to apologize for wasting his time. I don't believe I did anything wrong, because he would not take no for an answer, but they have said that I should have known how much he cares about me and not lied about being in a hospital, no matter how minor the fake illness was. Am I the jerk? Not the jerk. You were just trying to set boundaries and he wouldn't take no for an answer. Sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do to avoid unnecessary drama. Your ex and his family need to respect your space. I'm so sorry to make you come outside in this heat. No, you're not. I hate when guests apologize when all they want to hear is, "No, you're totally fine," or "I don't mind." So yesterday I had one table outside. It was slow and hot, and my general manager doesn't have a spine, so of course he set a two-top outside when the patio was empty. They were also the only table to sit outside. The table was nice, but I just hate it when guests say things like, "I'm so sorry to make you stand out in this heat," or "I'm sorry for coming in so late," or "You guys must hate it when people ask to be seated so late." It drives me crazy. I just stared at these two after they said that for a couple of seconds, and then with a blank face I just said, "Okay," with a nod and a forced smile. They looked at me, then at each other, then at me, and I said, "What can I get for you?" My manager ended up telling me that the table said they were uncomfortable with me. I didn't mean to just drop the facade. I can usually hold on to it. But it's Saturday at 7 p.m. in the South in June. I worked 62 hours between 3 part-time jobs because I won't get benefits and juggling a thesis, and I have to open tomorrow at 6 a.m. 30 minutes away from home. Also, take it from me, don't get cancer and credit debt while pursuing a master's in America. And something about 2 grown men wanting me to coddle them and tell them it's okay while I can feel a bead of sweat falling down myself because I'm wearing all black with full coverage is aggravating. I don't know. You're not sorry, and I do mind, and I do want to be inside. I just wasn't in the mood, and hearing my tone was off made me want to quit. I don't know. I've been doing 3 jobs for 5 months, and I just can't take any more BS. But I'm almost done paying off a chunk of my debt, and I have a job with great benefits starting in July. I'm gonna miss the money, but I won't miss the people. Edit. People are also saying I should just do my job and shut up, and I did do my job. I gave them service and have given other outside table service. Complaining on Reddit about standing in the Mississippi heat is not the same as not having a good work ethic or not doing my job. But I'll tell you what my job isn't. It's not to coddle grown men or make people feel better about themselves when they are being inconsiderate. If they can acknowledge it, then so can you. My partner, 33 male, proposed to me, 28 female, as a joke in front of his friends. My partner and I have been together for almost 5 years. We live together, and I thought we were on the same page about our future. We were hosting a small get-together last night with some of his friends at our apartment. The night was going great. Towards the end of it, everyone started talking about relationships and marriage. His friends had been pushing him to propose for a while, so it wasn't a surprise when the topic came up. Out of nowhere, my partner gets down on one knee and pulls out this ring. He started this whole speech about how much he loves me and how he wants to spend the rest of his life with me. I was in shock and started crying tears of joy. This is something I've been dreaming about for a while now. Just as I'm about to say yes, he bursts out laughing and says, "Relax, babe, it's just a joke." His friends were laughing, and I was just standing there, completely shattered. He handed me this plastic ring, the kind you get out of a vending machine. I tried to play it off and laugh too, but inside I couldn't stand it. I felt so humiliated and hurt. After everyone left, I confronted him about it. He said that I was being too sensitive and that it was just a bit of fun, but it wasn't. I've always been serious about our future, and this felt like he was mocking my feelings in our relationship. He knows how much I care about this, and he turned it into a joke. The thing is, he didn't seem to understand why I was upset. He kept saying it was just a joke and I should lighten up. I love him, but this has really shaken me. How do I even start to explain to him how deeply this hurt me? Has anyone else been through something like this? Breaking up over a joke after 5 years together feels wrong to me, but I feel so hurt right now. Edit. I know what a prank is. He called it a joke, and I'm describing everything just as it happened. You love him, but he doesn't love you. Love requires respect, and he has none for you if he could do such a cruel thing. A fake proposal is not a joke, it's an intentional humiliation. He was laughing at you with his friends. You won't get him to feel remorse for how hurtful this was because hurting and embarrassing you was the point. I would take this as a sign for you to move on. This man will never marry you, and thank God for that, because a life with such a cruel person sounds miserable. I thought astronomy and astrology were the same thing. I might have ruined my relationship with my girlfriend. My girlfriend, 32 female, of almost 1 year, has a doctorate in astronomy. My sister, who's 35 female, has astrology as her biggest hobby. I, 33 male, thought that they were the same thing, and now I think I ruined my relationship with my girlfriend. I thought she and my sister had lots in common, but after she met my sister when I introduced her to my family, my girlfriend was angry. My sister was just confused, but my girlfriend furious. At first, she thought I was belittling her career by comparing it to astrology, which she says is completely fake. After I told her I honestly and truly thought they were the same thing, she got even more upset. She claims the only way I could think that was if I never listened to her. That's not true. They both have names that are almost the same, and they are both about space. My girlfriend says she has a doctorate, has worked in America at NASA and Europe at the space agency, and has written a lot of scientific papers, so her accomplishments should not be compared to someone who believes in astrology. My girlfriend has not spoken to me since that day that I introduced her to my family. She canceled our visit to her family so that I could meet them. She canceled our recent date, and she told me to figure it out when we argued after we left visiting my family. She said we were done, but it was in the heat of the moment. I admit I made a mistake. I honestly did not know they weren't the same thing, but I don't think it was a huge mistake. I think I have ruined my relationship with her. I swear I didn't know, and I didn't mean to upset her. You say you listened to her talk about her career in astronomy, and all you came away with was that it sounds like astrology and is about space? You keep calling her your girlfriend through this post. My dear fellow, let me tell you sincerely, you are as single as the lonely brain cell inside your head. I have 4 friends who work in the space industry, and they're some of the nicest people in the world, but if I ever compared what they do to astrology, I think they would dump me as their friend. They also worked for NASA and some of the biggest companies in Europe and Asia. Girlfriend is right that you don't listen though, because whenever I hear my friends talk about their work and what they're currently working on, it's not at all similar to astrology. I feel secondhand embarrassment for you, but honestly think your girlfriend deserves someone better. Not even someone necessarily smarter than you, but at least someone who listens when she talks about her job. As someone who is into both astronomy and astrology, I honestly don't see why everyone is ganging up on you. If someone isn't really interested in this stuff, then why should I expect them to know the difference between the two? Just like the difference between a psychologist and a psychiatrist. If someone just isn't into a topic, then what does it matter if they know the difference between these types of things that sound similar? Sometimes I think Reddit just likes to crap on people in order to feel better about themselves. I caught my girlfriend using dating sites behind my back. We've been together for about 1.5 years now. Last week, I went out to her place in the morning to surprise her with some food. We've been fighting a bit, so it was going to be a full date day. She rolled over in bed, and I saw a message on her home screen saying, "You're such a beautiful girl. Why are you on dating sites?" So at this point, she had just woken up. Obviously, I'm pretty tense, and she asks me if I'm okay. I'm like, I'm not really sure. I just saw a message on your phone that said, "Why are you on dating sites? You're such a beautiful girl." She replies, "What are you talking about? That's crazy. I'm not on any dating sites." And then she ran to the restroom. She was in the restroom for quite a while and then finally comes out and goes, "Yes, I was on dating sites. We've been fighting a lot, but it's not like that. I just wanted to see what was out there." I left because I was in a pretty big panic. My ex prior to her that I was with for 10 years cheated on me constantly, and it destroyed me, so she knows how I feel about this kind of stuff. She texts me and says, "I didn't even cheat though. I would have never even met up with anyone or talked to anyone without telling you first and breaking up with you. I'm sorry that I downloaded it. I was just lost and hurting." We don't have an open relationship of any kind, and obviously she was talking to someone since that was over text, meaning she's been giving out her number. She keeps saying things like, "I'm sure it's all very worse in your head." I questioned her a bit more on it, and she said, "He was the only one I messaged. I matched with people and let my inbox fill up. I only responded to him because he's friends with Danny and Aaron." She keeps telling me it's worse in my head and I'm overreacting. I'm so torn apart. I love this girl, but after my ex, I promised myself I'd never put myself through that again. She says she doesn't want to lose me and will do whatever it takes. She said I can look through her entire phone now. Kinda late since she had a week to delete everything. So a few questions. Should I even give her another chance? Is this cheating? If I go through the phone and find obviously deleted messages, how should I respond? Is she trying to gaslight me? She just wants to hold on to you until she finds the next best thing. If you're having problems in a relationship, you should be focused on trying to find ways to make things better. You don't go on dating sites to see what's out there. How does that make your relationship better? She's already emotionally checked out. Let her go. If she keeps on justifying her actions and blaming you for overreacting, then you know it's over. She's trying out her other options while keeping you as the safe option. Based on her comment, without telling you first and breaking it off, once she finds a viable candidate, she'll just move ahead and dump you. Every single fight or argument you guys have from this point forward, you're going to wonder if she's cheating on you. It's not worth it. And like the other commenter said, she's holding on to you while keeping her options open, and no healthy relationship can grow from that. Am I the jerk for expecting my boyfriend to pay rent if he moves in with me? This is a doozy. I've been dating Josh for a year. I should say now that I, 24 female, don't ever want to be legally married, and Josh, 30 male, is divorced and doesn't want to remarry. We also live in a place where there is no common law marriage. Still, we want to take things a bit further, and we're talking about Josh and his 2 daughters moving in with me. I own a 3-bed, 2-bath house in a nice area. Josh rents a 2-bed, 1-bath apartment, and his lease is coming up. My mortgage is $1,000 a month, and Josh's rent is $1,400 a month. It was important to me that we would have everything figured out before making the change, so that there would be no surprises or disagreements about who pays what. I figured it would be unreasonable for Josh to expect to just live with me for free, especially since I'd be giving up one of my rooms so his daughters could have a room. I suggested that Josh pay $700 a month to me in rent, half of what he's currently paying. I would cover the cost of any home repairs, internet, garbage, etc. Then we would split utilities, even though there's 3 of them and 1 of me. I don't mind splitting since that would be about what I'm currently paying, I predict. And since I meal prep once a week, I would just get my own groceries and he could get theirs. When I laid everything out, Josh was very unhappy and said that since it's my house, he shouldn't have to pay rent and that we should split groceries. I told him he was welcome to buy his own house and I would move in with him and happily pay rent while renting out my own house. He was mad at me because he said he's not in a position where he can buy a house. We can't come to an agreement, so I suggested he just find another apartment. The owners aren't letting him renew, and we could revisit the topic in a year. He's not happy with that either because rent prices have skyrocketed here, and 2 bedrooms now go for around $1,800 a month, and he thinks he won't be able to find a place he can afford. I'm a bit frustrated because I feel like $700 a month is a really good deal compared to the likely $1,800 he will have to pay. Since we aren't going to get married or anything, I don't understand why he thinks I would be okay with him living for free with his 2 kids. I'm happy to have romance and companionship, but shared assets and finances are not something I want in life. I don't want to support a man. Am I the jerk for expecting my boyfriend to pay rent? Edit. I showed Josh this post and he thinks you are all wrong. So here's some input from him. Leslie makes $120,000 a year and I make $30,000 a year. I'm living paycheck to paycheck, supporting 2 kids with no help from my ex-wife. It's gotten so expensive here that at this rate, I'm not even going to be able to feed my kids soon without going to the food bank. No matter what, they're going to get fed. But it's not fair that she owns a house and can go on vacations or spend $400 a month getting her hair done when I can't even buy my kids name brand cereal. She shouldn't charge me to live with her because she should understand that I want to be able to spend whatever I can giving my kids the childhood that they deserve. Not for me, but for them. Just 2 hours later. Update. Thanks Reddit. Owe you one, and I'm glad I posted here. After a very loud and angry argument with Josh, I broke up with him. Despite pretty much everyone telling him he was wrong, Josh insisted that I should basically support the 3 of them because it's what would be best for his kids. He doesn't seem to understand that they aren't my kids, and no one is going to want to bankroll the 3 of them, at least no one with a brain. The point is, I'm young, good looking, I own a house. I can do better than a broke single dad who has no education and a crappy job who thinks it's okay to mooch off me and scream in my face when I tell him no. Hope your next girlfriend is stupid enough to put up with you, Josh. No wonder your ex-wife left you. My girlfriend hid the fact that she was a single mom, and now she just admitted it to me. I, 24 male, recently met this incredible girl, Sarah, who's 23, through a mutual friend. From the jump, we clicked on so many levels. She's hilarious, smart, and we share a lot of the same interests. After a few great dates, I thought we might really have something special. A couple of weeks ago, Sarah sat me down and shared something important. She has a 3-year-old son. She had him when she was younger, and the father isn't involved at all. She told me she has a solid support system and manages everything well, but honestly, I was caught off guard. I hadn't even considered the possibility that she might be a mom. I took a few days to think it over, and I realized that I'm just not ready for that kind of responsibility. It's not that I have anything against her or her son, it's just that I'm still figuring out my own life. I knew I had to be honest with her, so we met up for coffee. I told her, as gently as I could, that while I think she's amazing, I don't think I'm ready to be involved with someone who has a kid. I explained that it's more about where I am in my own life and less about her or her son. She seemed to understand, but I could tell she was hurt and disappointed. Later, our mutual friend told me that Sarah felt really judged and hurt by my decision. She said it was unfair to dismiss her just because she's a single mom and that I should have given it more of a chance. Now I'm feeling really conflicted. On one hand, I believe it's better to be upfront about my feelings rather than leading her on. But on the other hand, I hate the idea that I might have made her feel bad about something she can't control. Edit. I forgot to mention that her partner passed 2 years ago. You're not wrong. You didn't gut react, but you took time and considered it to realize that it's not for you. You explained it very well by telling her it's just not where you are at in your life, and that's both valid and very understandable. Of course she's going to feel disappointed, but that's part of dating. You're both getting to know each other and decide if you fit into each other's lives. It could have been a number of reasons it didn't work out. As long as you're kind, honest, and compassionate, you aren't doing anything wrong. You're not wrong. You handled it with kindness and maturity. Not the jerk. Love how nobody here is calling her out for hiding this from you. She was trying to get you hooked on the relationship so that you'd be more willing to go along with it once you found out she had a kid. Hiding this sort of information in the beginning is not only manipulative, but it shows you that she's willing to keep important things secret from you. Consider this a blessing that you saw her true colors this early on. The same thing happened to me once. A girl I had been dating for almost a year when she told me one night, in a drunk confession, that her baby sister was actually her daughter, and that once she finished uni, then she wanted us to start raising her as our own. She told me this at her house in front of her parents, another tactic to trick me into accepting it. Well, I reversed it on her. I acted like it was okay, but once I got home, I ghosted her. I was furious. She spread lies about me on Facebook for a year straight, how I abandoned her out of nowhere. Eventually, I blocked her. Couldn't stand to see all of her friends and relatives bashing me and telling her that she'll find the man she deserves one day. Am I the jerk for getting angry at my girlfriend for hiding that she speaks Spanish? My family's from Mexico, but I was born in the US. I'm the only one in my family who doesn't speak Spanish. All of my extended family, grandparents, uncles, aunts, cousins, etc., speak it, but I never really cared for it that much. Katie, my girlfriend, knows that I'm Mexican and she asked if I spoke Spanish, but when I said no, she didn't push, which I found refreshing. Usually people ask a lot of questions. She never said she spoke Spanish, but I remember her watching something and hearing Spanish, but I figured she had subtitles on. If it's important, Katie's from Germany. Katie and I have been together for 3 months. It's not long, but it's been intense. My grandmother had a birthday on Saturday, and my family threw her a huge party. I invited Katie to come along with me as it would be a perfect time to meet my family, and they're always very welcoming. Katie agreed. When we got there, everyone switched to English to speak to Kate, but they quickly went back to Spanish. I went to grab a beer, and I came back to find Katie talking to my aunt in Spanish. I came over and played it cool, telling her I didn't know she spoke it, yada yada. When Katie was with me, she spoke English, but whenever she spoke to one of my family members alone, she switched because they switched. It made me really uncomfortable, especially since it wasn't your typical barely spoken Spanish. It was full-on, fluent Spanish, and she understood my fast-speaking relatives. I got really annoyed with her, but I said nothing. My grandma told me how much she loved Katie and how she's happy I found such an amazing girl. All my family loved her and couldn't stop singing praises about her. On our way back, I got really angry with her, and when we got to my apartment, I told her that I felt betrayed that she hid that she spoke Spanish and how she made a fool out of me there. I admit I was shouting because I was so angry. I felt humiliated. She asked me to calm down and told me she never hid anything. I accused her of sneakily making her way into my family instead of having them warm up gradually. She asked if I was being serious, and I confirmed. She called me a jerk and left my apartment. I was too angry to stop her. I'm waiting for her to call me with apologies, but she hasn't been in touch since Saturday night. I told my brother about it, and he told me I'm the fool, but I really feel disrespected by Katie. Am I the jerk for getting angry and shouting because she hid the fact that she spoke Spanish? Update. I had a problem before, and this place gave me a reality check, and now I have a problem with another person and need to know who's the jerk. I broke up with my girlfriend for the second time a few weeks ago. We've had some issues that we couldn't get past, so we decided to end it. But during the time we were together, my sister, who's 26, and my ex, who's 28, became best friends. I thought that once we broke up, my sister, Floor, would stop seeing my ex, Katie. I didn't ask her, I just assumed, because that's what family does. You don't stay in touch with your brother's ex. It's been a few weeks, and I haven't heard from Katie, and my sister hasn't mentioned her either. Just yesterday, I drove to my sister's house because she offered me some canned food and homemade jars of veggies. Money's been tight, so I took her up on her offer. We didn't plan to meet at a specific hour, so I just dropped by whenever I had time. When I got inside, my brother-in-law let me in, I was shocked to find that Katie was there. I thought she was there for me and told her up front to not beg to get back with me because it ain't happening. She looked at me and told me that she'd never want to get back with me and said she's here for Floor and they're having a pizza movie night. I got really angry. You need to talk to somebody, man. I asked my sister what the heck she thought she was doing, that she's betraying her own blood by staying friends with her, and that she must stop being friends with Katie because it's unacceptable, and I'll tell our family that she's betraying us. She told me our family knows and to stop being a baby. She's not going to listen to me. My brother-in-law came in to see what was going on. When he found out, he called me a jerk and he kicked me out. On my way, I told my sister that if they broke up, I'd never be friends with brother-in-law and that she's an awful sister. My sister just called me and told me to get a grip and grow up. I also got a phone call from my cousins and my aunts. My sister basically told our whole family. I genuinely thought I was right, but everyone's been on my case, so I want to check who's the jerk, my sister or I, to know how to continue. Am I the jerk for demanding my sister not be friends with my ex? He's getting angry at everything for any reason. I don't know what's more exhausting, being around him or being him. He's mad because she knows the language his family speaks? I'm so lost and thankful I'm single at the same time. I heard my husband crying in the bathroom after we bumped into his ex. My husband and I met 2 years ago. He proposed 6 months later and told me he knew I was the one when we met and that he didn't want to waste time or lose me. I was, and still am, head over heels and I agreed. We've been married for 6 months and we're expecting our first baby. Last weekend, we bumped into his ex. They were together for 9 years, but she ended the relationship when he didn't take the relationship to the next level. When we got engaged and married, my husband texted her to tell her and to apologize, and he talked about fate and how some things aren't meant to be. I remember asking him why. He said he owed it to her and so that she didn't hear it from someone else and wasn't prepared for it. They broke up 3 years ago. When we saw them, she was pregnant, and she had a kid that's probably about 8 years old. And she was with a man who was obviously her partner, and they were very affectionate towards each other. My husband said hi, even though we could have just walked by unnoticed, and he insisted to talk. When we got home, I heard him crying in the bathroom. Now he's been depressed and distant the whole week. I realized he must have written to her after we got home, and he showed me his phone and said yes he has. Again, he apologized for what he did and told her that some things are not meant to be. Would I be the jerk if I confronted him about what's going on? Why is he doing this? If you think his emotional reaction means you're coming in second or that he still has feelings for her, that seems like such a waste. You're pregnant with this man's baby. His ex is pregnant and in a happy relationship. You're obviously the one that he's with. The fact that he had feelings for his ex does not indicate that he settled for you. Please do not succumb to this black and white thinking. You have a husband who has every right to feelings and emotions. It sounds like he handled this situation with grace and dignity. I think he does need to cut communication with her completely in order to focus on his life. He had this moment of closure. You're both pregnant. Don't sabotage this with some BS about needing to be first, or else go find a guy who's never been in a serious relationship and be that guy's first. Reddit being Reddit. OP. Ugh. Your picture of handling things with grace and dignity is totally different to mine, and that's okay. I respectfully disagree with everything you said here, and I'm sorry, but I am following my gut feeling, which is often strong and true. Don't end the relationship yet. Level with him about how you feel. Talk to him and tell him. Give him the chance to come to his senses and double down on you. Once you tell him exactly how this makes you feel, he should move heaven and earth to try to repair the damage with you. If he doesn't, then you'll know what to do. OP. That's the plan. I'll give him a chance to choose me. Maybe confronting was the wrong word I used in my post. More like tell him how I feel and let him explain, and then decide if his explanation is good enough for me. Many are suggesting therapy. I don't think it works for me, at least not if he doesn't choose me. Therapy only works if both parties have chosen each other and needs tools to communicate that. Not the jerk. The fact that he 1. Texted her, 2. Cried, and 3. Worst of all, has been distant is a red flag. It shows you that he's not over her and he can't even control those feelings and act normal towards you. Frankly, it looks like he wishes he were still with her and settled for you just because he couldn't keep her. OP. But that's the thing. He could have kept her if he wanted. The breakup was because he didn't want to get married to her and have kids. And now he realizes he messed up and only got his second choice. Sorry, honey, but we all have exes, and yet we don't all get mopey about them. If I met my ex today and he was with his family, I wouldn't be sad. I'd be very happy for him. Even I acknowledge that my exes were good guys. They have zero emotional power over me because my husband is 100% of what I want. I'm sure your husband is fond of you, but he doesn't love you with all of his heart because if he did, there would be no space for her years after their breakup. OP. Same here. I have loved before and I've had exes. I would never have felt anything if I met my ex with a new woman because I don't care about them emotionally. Why have you rushed every aspect of your relationship? Like, that's absolutely insane, to be married and expecting in under 2 years. I say that as someone who got married on my 2-year anniversary. That's nuts. It sounds like he was trying to prove a point and is obviously still in love with his ex and is using you to avoid mourning his lost relationship. OP. Because I'm stupid and I thought it was so romantic and meant to be. People can fool you to believe that they love you so much and there's no point in waiting. Update. So I showed my husband this comment and I told him that this was basically how I feel, but that someone else wrote it better. First he got upset and defensive, then he started arguing and telling me to leave him alone, which is what I've been doing for the past week. Then he started crying and asked to read it again. He sat silent for like 15 minutes reading it, but not once did he deny or try denying it or call me crazy or at least try to explain. If I know myself, this is over. I don't play second fiddle. I don't do consolidation prize, and I absolutely am not going to have another woman being the main character in my own story. So I told him this was over and that I need a break to sort out my feelings, but that this will eventually end in divorce because I know myself very well. He didn't say anything. He just sat there silent. I know his type. The only way he will realize my worth is once he's lost me, just like he did with his ex. People like him are frugal with their feelings. He strung her along because he didn't want to give her all of him, then he turned around and gave me exactly what she wanted, but deprived me from exactly what I wanted that he gave her. Men like him will never give all of themselves because he probably thinks he would lose control if he gave all of himself to a woman. What a waste of a man. Am I the jerk for warning my sister's boyfriend that she wanted our parents to confront him at dinner? I'm 23 female. My family went out for dinner a few days ago to celebrate my sister, who's 26, Jen, her birthday. When we got to the restaurant, Jen was already there alone. She said she told her boyfriend, Blake, the time got pushed back 30 minutes because she needed to talk to us alone. Jen was mad at Blake for not getting her any birthday gifts and only took her out to dinner to a place they go to often. Our parents understood her being upset, and she asked if they would try talking to him because she couldn't get Blake to understand how hurtful that was. I asked her if she had given him her usual present for his birthday or last holiday, and Jen said that that wasn't important. For context, my sister's idea of a gift for her partner is hooking up with him and is only ever that. I don't know about her past relationships, but I do know in the 2 years they've been together, I've heard and seen Blake give her gift ideas for him, and he winds up buying them for himself after the fact. He's come to Christmas at our house with gifts for Jen, and Jen always shows up empty-handed for him, saying that she'd give him his present later. I told Jen it sounded like she got as good as she gives, whereas our parents said I should be concerned someone would be dismissive and vindictive toward my sister. Our parents said they'd think about talking to him based on his behavior when he arrived, so I texted Blake that Jen was setting him up for a lecture. He wound up not showing up. Last night, Jen called me angry. She saw my text to him and realized my text was the reason he canceled and accused me of not having her back, and she told our parents that I butt into their relationship, but I figured she was trying to get us involved in her relationship anyway. I probably could have stayed quiet about it, but at the same time, it just didn't sit right with me what she was trying to do. Am I the jerk? Update. I wouldn't say my sister is the golden child since we were treated equally growing up. More that our parents are family first no matter what. This is not the first time she's tried getting others to fight her battles, just the first time she's done it in public and with our parents. I do not know if our parents know her gift giving, but it's pretty easy to figure out based on her comments being the same with every boyfriend she's had since high school. And no, I don't have feelings for Blake. I have a boyfriend of my own who I love very much. They are broken up, and as some of you guessed, Jen is blaming me. But honestly, I wasn't expecting to come through unscathed after I warned him. I got the news from our mother who called earlier to hark on me not backing my sister up against a man who disregarded her wishes on an important day and bailed. I told Mom there are times you absolutely do have family's back, but when your daughter only ever forwards nature's gift card to her partners on gift-giving occasions, knowing they've asked for something else, and then involves the entire family in getting her process turned around on her, isn't it? Instead of agreeing to a public intervention, she should have told Jen to leave us out of it and keep it between them. Maybe shut down Jen's "all men need is love to be happy" rhetoric years ago, and maybe she'd have a son-in-law by now. So that's that. Not the jerk. Jen already lied to Blake about the time of the dinner, and she doesn't consider what he might need or want for a birthday gift. They don't really sound long-term compatible. I think you did the decent thing in giving him the heads up, although he should have still attended. Your parents sound like they indulged Jen, and she has therefore never learned to take the consequences of her own actions. Am I the jerk for sending my twin daughters to separate schools? I, 38 male, am the father of 2 girls, Elsa who's 5 and Anna who's 5. They're physically identical to the point where even my parents get them mixed up when we visit, and my wife's parents just call them the twins. This is extremely frustrating for me, and I don't think it's healthy for them. There are so many people where we live who see 2 girls with similar features and decide that makes them the same person, which they are not, and I'm beyond sick of it. I'm sick of getting 2 of everything at Christmas and birthdays, even though they have drastically different interests, personalities, and styles. I'm sick of hearing how they're creepy or look like dolls, or having my daughters referred to as a set. At their pre-K, the teachers always kept them together and often called them the wrong names, which apparently led to some critical information being attributed to the wrong one. I'm done with this. They're going into kindergarten in September, and I'm enrolling them in different schools. They're both private Catholic schools, similar price range, similar prestige, as much as a kindergarten can have prestige. Elsa has a longer commute in the morning than Anna, but that's the only major inequality here. And honestly, I think the extra 15 minutes in the car is worth it in order to have my daughters each recognized as individuals at school. If they're not in the same class, teachers don't know them both, students don't know them both. Then my girls will each get the same individual attention as any other kid, rather than half. My wife thinks I'm setting them up for resentment if one school turns out better than the other, and that I'm being unfair to Elsa by having her commute be longer. I let my daughters choose which school each one wanted to go to, and Elsa chose hers because there's a bird in the logo. I get that ideally it would be great to send all our kids to the same school, but I also genuinely believe that giving them this experience apart from one another is crucial for their social and emotional development into emotionally stable adults. Am I the jerk? As someone with a twin sister myself, I totally get where you're coming from. My sister and I were regularly called the twins, called by the wrong name, seen as a set, always had us both included. This led to major issues in the differentiation process when we started wanting to be individuals. We also had a hard time learning how to create social bonds as teenagers and adults. Thankfully, my school was clever enough not to put us in the same classroom. No jerks here, but for future reference, it may be worth finding a larger school and enrolling them in separate classrooms. Private schools especially can have wildly asynchronous school year calendars, and you're going to be sad if spring breaks don't align, random in-service days off school, etc. Not to mention the risk of the kids having music concerts or school plays on the same night, etc. They won't have any school friends in common, so you can look forward to twice the amount of commuting to birthday parties and sleepovers, etc. I applaud you for cherishing their individuality. Other fun stuff like different haircuts, hair color streets, etc. can help other people see them as individuals. You're the jerk for not having your wife involved. Schools are a 2 yes, 1 no situation, and for declaring that the girls chose their schools at 5. Your criteria for that is that your child chose a longer commute because of a logo. That is not an informed decision because at 5, they can't make informed decisions. However, at 5, they can answer whether they would like to be together or apart. I caught my Karen sister trying to steal from me. I, 27 female, and my sister, 30 female, have a really strained relationship. I'm very low contact with her, and she only contacts me either to get money or to ask me to buy stuff for her kids. Me and my husband are very well off and we own a business together. So over time, with some of my fun money, I've bought designer handbags, and soon enough, I had a collection. So when we bought our house, I made a space in my closet to keep all of them in. Now, recently, me and my husband just announced our pregnancy, and we threw a party, so we messaged family to come over and celebrate with us. My sister came, and she looked around a lot for some reason, so since I was suspicious, I made sure to watch her moves. Soon, she started making her way upstairs, and I told my husband to tell people that I was using the bathroom, and I signaled him, showing him my sister going upstairs. So I went to go see what she was doing, and I tried to lay low about it. I saw her look around a few rooms, then she went into my room, and she found my handbag collection and looked around a bit, and took 3 and stuffed them in her duffel bag. I forgot to mention, but I should have been suspicious by how awkwardly big it was, but I assumed it was for her 2 kids' stuff. She took like 3 of them, which were really expensive ones, my Birkin, Chanel, and Dior bags. I screamed, "What do you think you're doing?" And she dropped the bag and starts saying, "Why are you following me?" And I tell her clearly, "Because you're trying to steal my bags." And she just starts saying how I don't need all these bags and I shouldn't be so selfish. I told her I'd be happy to give her my old bags, but not these because I enjoy collecting them. I'm sorry if I sound snobby. Soon enough, she goes down the stairs crying unnecessarily loud, and so a few people follow her asking what's wrong, and she said basically the whole thing that happened upstairs, and they all started scolding her. But my mom and dad are taking her side, and it really hurt me. So now I'm wondering if I'm the jerk. Not the jerk. Might be a good idea to install cameras though, and obviously do not invite your sister over anymore. You caught theft. Good for you for acting on instinct. If she does this again, please escalate this to the police. Doesn't matter if she's your sister. Not the jerk. I broke my son and his girlfriend up, and he doesn't even know it was me. I, female 49, broke my son and his girlfriend up. They had been dating for almost a year and seemed very happy. For backstory, my son, who's 19, moved out pretty soon after his biological father passed. He told me he wanted to expand on life because he was nervous he would waste it away being depressed over the passing of someone so important to him. I understood completely and allowed him space and freedom. But we talked daily and he visited all the time. After a while of living alone, he moved back. It was around this time that he introduced me to Kaylee, fake name. Me and Kaylee got along immediately. She lacked a mother in her life, and I think she was quick to establish that relationship with me. Off the bat, I noticed she was extremely paranoid and had extreme trust issues, but she wasn't toxic or manipulative, just anxious about where my son was going after work. She'd ask me, and I'd answer with, "He went to his friend Mike's house. They hang out to play PlayStation with each other." We both genuinely believed that my son was at Mike's house, and we had no reason to suspect he wasn't. One night after my son came home to pick up his PS4 to hang out with Mike, Kaylee asked me to pick up some tampons and Tylenol for her. She lived close, and her periods were always super intense, so I was used to going out late into the night to help her. My son gets out of work at 4 and is usually home or at Kaylee's place by 5:30, 6 at the latest. It was 6 and he hadn't swung by to drop off his PS4, so I shot him a text before I left the house to let him know why I was gone. It was something like, "Hey, Kaylee is on her period, so I'm heading out to grab supplies. You okay?" He answered me while I was driving, and I checked it when I got to the store. It was something like, "Yeah, I'm fine. Mike needed help building a shelf he bought, so I'm staying a little later." I sent back some messages saying okay, be safe, all of that mother stuff. But I was not ready to see Mike working the cash register, smiling at me as soon as I walked in. I hadn't forgotten he worked here, but obviously figured it was his day off. I smiled back, but immediately I felt sick to my stomach. I tried to rationalize it. Maybe he means he's building it for Mike while he works. I couldn't even think straight. I just got the tampons, some snacks, and Tylenol for Kaylee and went to the register. Mike obviously started small talk with me, paraphrasing because my memory is bad, but it went something like this. "Hi, Mrs. OP. Hello, Mike. How are you doing?" "I'm all right, getting some supplies for my son's girlfriend." I remember he laughed. "Speaking of your son, I haven't seen him in a few weeks. I need him to return my PS4 controller that he borrowed. Can you tell him that?" I felt sick again. I didn't want to put my son on the spotlight, so I didn't mention the stories my son had been feeding me. I just smiled and said, "I'll let him know." I paid for my stuff and I left quickly. I drove to Kaylee's house and gave her the supplies, but I didn't know what to say or how to say it. She was smiling and laughing and looked carefree. She asked me where my son was. I couldn't lie to her. I couldn't. So I answered honestly, I don't know. I didn't know where he was or who he was with. I just told her to call him and ask. She thanked me and I left her house. Later that night, at around 8 p.m., my son finally came home. I didn't say much to him, just asked him if he had fun. He said yeah and went to his room. I knew I had to tell Kaylee. Soon after, I went into my room and I called her. I informed her of what Mike had said and how late he had gotten home. She told me that he said he was home hours ago, just tired so he wasn't going to visit. I could tell she was crying and I asked her if she wanted me to come over. I went to her house and we talked about everything, and she told me she didn't want anything to do with him and wanted to break up with him immediately. I told her she could, and if she wanted, we could be honest and say I told her. After I comforted her for a few hours, she asked if she could still contact me, even if she wasn't with my son. I said yes, but honestly, I'm hesitant about it. I love her, but it feels off to me. I would still help her though. Fast forward a few days, and my son comes crying to me that Kaylee broke up with him and isn't giving him any reason. I, of course, comfort him too. He said that she needed time to think about it and would tell him why when she knows what to say. But for now, she is supposedly speechless. I was too, so I don't blame her. He cried for hours in his room and in my arms, and regardless of what he did, of what I did, I comforted him. I want to tell him what I know, and I feel bad that he doesn't know. But Kaylee didn't tell him anything yet, so I might wait. Honestly, I feel so stuck. This isn't about cheating, even though I think he is. This is about trust and how he's lying to me and his girlfriend. We both know there is a possibility he isn't cheating, but he shouldn't have to lie if he has nothing to hide. I just want to add a few things. I agree I should have spoken to my son about it first, but I was too emotional and I felt betrayed. I won't disclose anything, but my son is probably mentally ill, and I've tried to get him therapy his whole life, but we ran into so many issues such as money and him not enjoying his therapist. I'm going to discuss therapy now that I am financially stable, and I can support him in that. The next update will be the last. I appreciate everyone who's commented on this. Lastly, I'm not okay with my son cheating. I may have worded it wrong, but that's because I'm biting my tongue when it comes to expressing how mad, sad, and just grossed out I am. I truly don't think he realizes how much this hurts people, and I want him to be into therapy for that too. Since he was little, he's always hurt people's feelings and never understood how it could have hurt them. I will absolutely stay in Kaylee's life. I just hope that it won't cause any drama moving forward, and I hope my son has an explanation for his behavior. I'll make an update sometime within the following days, but so far all I've found out is that my son has sometimes ignored Kaylee for days on end with no explanation, and I haven't heard of it because she's a nervous person who avoids conflict. He also wants to invite a girl over for dinner tonight, which he never does ever, and I find it suspicious, but I'm hoping it's his friends. As for the lying, I have messaged Mike in hopes that he knows something about my son. Alright, you're a terrible mother for trading in loving your son for loving his girlfriend. You have no idea what your son is doing in that time. You have no idea what he's hiding from you or her. You made your own conclusions, and instead of mothering your son, you went and tattletaled on him to his girlfriend behind his back, and you're now keeping it a secret from him. No wonder your son is sneaky and manipulative. He learned it from his controlling mother. I know you probably mean well, but this behavior is disgusting, and you need to self-reflect. Update. My son told me the truth today after him and his girlfriend spoke. He was indeed seeing another woman, and I told him if he was unhappy, he shouldn't cheat. I'm not trading in my son, but this woman was planning on getting off the pill and selling her soul for my son, and I wasn't going to allow her to build her relationship off of a lie. My son and I spoke, and he told me her trust issues and whatnot were too much for him, and I told him I understand. His biological dad cheated on me, and I don't bring it up to him since he passed, but I will not allow a woman to get pregnant and live a life built on lies. He told me he was still in love with her, and he only cheated on her because it was that time of the month, and he only cheats on her once a month. Kaylee decided to give me a call. She talked things out with her sister and decided to ask him. Apparently, he was cheating, but gave her the same excuse he gave me. He said that he's only done it 3 other times. She called me and told me before my son told me, But in his defense, he was busy explaining things to his girlfriend, and now Mike, who he accidentally wrapped into this. It's only 12 in the afternoon, and he wants to tell me in detail after work, which I told him was okay. He told me he was sorry for lying, and I told him it was okay, but it did hurt my feelings. I didn't mention this in the post, or to him. His biological father cheated on me before I was pregnant with my son and for the first year of our marriage. I did not want my son to think that was okay. I talked to Kaylee, and she's just head over heels for my son, and said if he promises not to do it again, she would stay with him. I haven't told him that because it's not my business. They can talk about it. My son has sent a few messages since, but he seems extremely sorry. I am a bit disappointed in him, but I think it's because of what I went through and how hard being a single mother was after the man you thought you loved just left. Kaylee said that she would try to be a more attentive girlfriend, which honestly sucks to hear because this isn't her fault. I'm not going to dictate their relationship and tell her to find someone else, but it does shock me that she can forgive him. As much as I want to be mad at my son, I really can't. I've never gotten mad at him before, and I think this situation just brought me back to everything that happened when he was little. I hope my son can learn from this. Tonight when we talk, I'm going to be a little stricter on him, obviously. But again, he's an adult. If he decides he's going to cheat on her, I can't stop him. I really do hope that he learns. So, who was the girl he wanted to bring around? An old friend from high school. He told me they talked a lot and really connected and wanted to be friends with benefits. Apparently, he wanted to explore his options, but he says that he's in love with Kaylee, so I'm not sure what he's going to do. My fiancé left on a work trip, which turned out to be a romantic vacation with her fling. My fiancé left on a work trip 3 days ago. It turns out that this supposed work trip was actually a romantic getaway with a fling that she's had for who knows how long. They're 2,000 miles away in a different country, and they're staying at a luxury hotel together. She has absolutely no idea that I know, and we've been communicating as if everything were normal. I had a weird feeling something was going on recently, and she made some mistakes in hiding her infidelity. I just found out 2 days ago. I have 5 days before she returns home, and I plan on keeping calm until she returns to an empty house. I have another place that I can easily move to, and we currently rent an apartment together. Aside from giving notice with the management at my building that I'll be leaving, what other steps should I be taking? We have a dog as well that we bought together. Can I take him away with me legally, or will that cause issues for me? I don't even know what else I'm forgetting to think about here, as my mind is going a mile a minute, but any additional advice would be greatly appreciated. I really don't know if I can have a conversation with her when she gets home. I want to just disappear. When you move out, document all of her property that you have left in the apartment and the condition of the entire apartment so you can prove it's in good order. Separate all finances and cancel credit cards. Lock down your credit. Talk to the bank. Cancel your joint subscriptions. Change all of your passwords on everything. Car leases? Phone plans? Keep copies of all documentation of affair, just in case. Whatever you do, don't confront her when she gets home. If she's crazy enough to pull something like this, expect that she will gaslight you like no tomorrow and only make the situation worse. The best step would be not to give her that closure that she's going to desire. I'm sorry that you're dealing with this. 3 years of extended betrayal. Do not expect her to go quiet. Take a deep breath and focus on yourself. Copy all the evidence to a secure place. Get your name removed from everything. Am I the jerk for filing for divorce because my husband over-tightens all the jar lids? His over-tightening of jar lids has been an issue since he was just visiting at my house when we were dating. First it started with just things he used, and then over time, it became every glass jar with a metal lid. He had tightened them so much, I couldn't open them without assistance. It wasn't a huge deal if he was there, but if I was alone, it was so annoying. More times than I can count, I've opened a new jar of something because I couldn't get the jar open. It's been a recurring cycle over the past 5 years. It's just a thing that would escalate until I had a major meltdown and freaked out, screaming, frustrated, and seemingly crazy because it's just a lid. Then it would get better for a while. Then it would slowly become an issue again. Just getting worse and worse until I reach a breaking point again. Sometimes I literally feel insane for being so upset over jar lids. He initially claimed that he did it to keep food fresh. After many arguments about it and my insistence that I don't believe it keeps anything fresh, and even if it does make things last longer, I don't care if it means I can't eat my food when I want to. I'll just replace things that go bad because they are closed normally. Then the excuse was that it's a habit. So about a month ago, my husband had a family emergency and had to travel out of state for 10 days. First day he's gone, I discover a jar I can't open. I was annoyed and was going to the store to buy new pickles when my neighbor said hi and to let him know if I needed anything when my soon-to-be ex was out of town. I said wait here, and I got the jar, which he opened for me. The next day I saw him outside and asked him to open another jar. He offered to come open all of the jars. I agreed, and he came in, and we went to the fridge and opened all the jars except for 2, which he couldn't get open. I thanked him profusely, and I told him I'd bake some of his favorite cookies later in the week. He laughed and said it was no big deal, and after confirming that I wouldn't be upset if the remaining 2 jars were destroyed in his attempt to open them, he took them home to his garage to open them one way or another. He said that he's heard me screaming about over-tightened jar lids a few times over the years, and he's really pondered if I was crazy or if my husband was really over-tightening the jar lids. He said, "You know this was intentional. It was every jar, and I'm sure he doesn't regularly use your hot pepper paste or mango puree or any of your other fancy cooking stuff." Then he held up the 2 jars he couldn't open and said, "I don't know why he's doing it, but it wasn't an accident." After he left, I locked the door and sat on my kitchen floor and cried. Then I felt hot and lightheaded. I got sick. It crossed my mind that I could be having a heart attack. I thought about calling 911, but I sat back down on my kitchen floor instead, and I was just okay with whatever happened. Later, the neighbor came back with the open jar of hot fudge and apologized that he couldn't save the figs. He said he broke the jar trying to get it open. He also apologized for what he said about my husband doing it on purpose. I assured him it was okay. I couldn't sleep that night, tossed and turned all night. I called out of work. By 10 a.m., I realized that I couldn't stay married anymore, and I made an appointment with a lawyer for the next day. There are literally no other issues. No cheating, no mistreatment. We had a good love life. Both have good jobs, nice house, no financial issues. He was absolutely blindsided when he came home, and I told him I wanted a divorce. He still won't admit that he tightened the lids on purpose. He had suggested we go to marriage counseling, but I refused. There is no point. I just literally can't get past the jar lids. I still feel a little crazy about that. I have no idea why he would tighten every jar lid so tightly that I couldn't open it. He's given me no reason. He still won't even admit that he did it on purpose. But the hot pepper paste is in the back of the fridge. I use it only when I make Indian food. It's behind other things, and he's never used it. It's nothing you could put in food without cooking it. The pepper paste could not have been an accident. It couldn't have been. Maybe he put mango puree on his toast or in his oatmeal, but the pepper paste couldn't have been an accident. That's what my life comes down to. I'm getting a divorce because the lid to my hot pepper paste was over-tightened. If it had been every jar except for one, I could try. I could have a silver of doubt. I could do something else, but I just can't get past the hot pepper paste. I'm just imagining this dude sneaking into a dark kitchen every night to tighten all of the jar lids while laughing like a maniac. My ex told me that he just didn't hear our 2 babies when they were awake at night. Too tired and just didn't hear them. I believed him. When the younger one was 3, my ex told me that he had lied. He smiled about it. "I knew you'd get up. Of course I heard it every time." I divorced him 6 months later. Like you, it really got to me. All 33 years with my husband, he did nothing but make my life easier, better. Know why? Because he loves me. Your man is trying to make your life harder, make you seem crazy and unhinged. That's not love. It's not about the jars and lids. He's not nurturing you. He's trying to make you dependent in some way, however small a way it is. His ego has cost him you. I too would not be able to trust my man if he did this type of thing, and without trust, there's no relationship. Not the jerk. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or her husband? Please let us know. This is the only downside of drinking Karen's new superpower protein drink mix. Maybe we'll put a disclaimer on the bottle or something. May cause superhuman strength that causes your wife to divorce you. Grandpa is punishing my dad. I have the power to stop it, but don't know if I actually want to. I, 21 female, lost my mom when I was 14. Dad remarried when I was 17. My stepmom has a daughter who's 15. She and dad had a boy who's 3, and now she just had a daughter. Anyway, I have worked since I was 16 to have some money to buy stuff for myself. When I turned 18, dad said I was now an adult and should start paying rent. It was only $500, a symbolic amount since he would still cover food and other essentials. I was mad and we fought, but in the end I accepted that, and that was the arrangement until 7 months ago. Dad came to me saying I had 2 months to move out because stepmom was pregnant and they would need my room for the baby, which is insane because they both have private offices. My stepmom doesn't even need one since she's a stay-at-home mom since the birth of my baby brother. Nonetheless, they told me I had to move out. By the way, just an addendum. Me and stepmom get along fine. We don't fight or bicker. I don't think this is an evil stepmom moment, but but who knows? Me and stepsister are actually pretty close. I help her with homework and I talk about her personal problems. I do love her very much. Back to the story. I didn't know what to do. I'm going to college. I want to be a civil engineer and work part-time. I don't have the means to live by myself. I called my aunt, asking if I could move in with her for the time being until I figured something out, offered to pay rent and all. She was aghast at what Dad was doing. She said I absolutely could live with her, no rent needed, but also said she was going to deal with my dad. The next day, Grandpa came to our house and they talked privately. I could hear my dad's angry voice, but couldn't understand anything being said. After a while, Grandpa came to my room and said I had 3 choices. The first was continue living with Dad and stepmom like I was doing. Nothing would change, except without paying rent. The second was moving in with him and Grandma, or my aunt. Third was find a place of my own and he would pay the rent and costs for me. He said I didn't need to choose now. I could keep living with Dad, and if I changed my mind, to just tell him. I was actually relieved I could still live with my dad and that this madness was over. But the following days and weeks, Dad and stepmom were pretty hostile towards me, and I felt incredibly uncomfortable being in my own home. Even Cassie picked this up and asked me why they were angry at me. So I decided to move out and told Grandpa. He said that he would take care of everything. A few weeks later, he moved me into one of his rental units. The apartment is lovely. He bought me a fridge, stove, and other essential items. He gave me a check for $15,000, saying this money is to help me start living on my own, and that as long as I'm working or studying, I can live there rent-free for as long as I want. My dad and I have been pretty low contact since I moved out. He never came to visit me or me visit him. I miss them a lot, especially my stepsister, but I'm still hurt. 2 weeks ago, my stepmom gave birth. I visited them in the hospital. It was a little awkward, but nice seeing them and my baby sister. Anyway, a few days ago, Dad calls me saying he misses me, the kids miss me, and I should move back home. He apologized for asking me to move out, etc., and I told him I'd think about it. Yesterday, I visited my aunt and was telling her what my dad said, and my cousin laughed a little and said, "I'm sure he does." I asked what he meant, and that's when they told me a lot of, until now, unknown information. Basically, my dad's home is actually my grandpa's, as in my aunt's. Basically, the deal he made with me, he made that deal with all of his kids and some other grandkids as well. He never wanted any of his family to have to worry about basic stuff like housing and food, etc. When I called my aunt that time, she called Grandpa, who was furious with Dad, not only for kicking me out, but also for charging me rent. That day, he went to my dad's and tore him a new one and threatened to have him evicted. But now the petty part. You know that $15,000 Grandpa gave me? It's actually what I paid Dad in rent all that time, and now he's making Dad pay him back. Also, he's charging Dad $1,200 for the rent loss in apartment that I'm living in. Call me dumb or naive, but until now, I never realized my dad didn't make that much money. We lived in a great house, always went on vacations, and lived very comfortable lives, but I guess Grandpa has always been helping behind the scenes. Now my cousin thinks Dad is struggling with 3 kids at home, a single income, and having to pay it back to Grandpa. So he says Dad wants me back because he imagines Grandpa will stop punishing him if I'm back living with them. Honestly, I don't know what to do. I'm actually loving living on my own these past 6 months, but I do really miss them. I miss my siblings. I miss the life we had before all of this, but I don't know if moving back home is the right answer. And also, I'm hurt the reason he wants me back is for the money. Update. To answer some questions that people had, my aunt and grandpa are from my father's side of the family. My mom's side, unfortunately, I don't have much contact with. My maternal grandparents passed before she did. I have uncles and aunts. I see them once in a while, but they don't live close by. I also have 2 other uncles from my father's side. I'm close to them, but not as near my aunt. She was my rock when my mom passed. I consider her a second mom. My stepmom knew about the rent that I was paying. It was implied stepsister would need to do the same when she turned 18, but I don't know if she knew Dad didn't own the house or the extent of how much Grandpa has financially helped Dad. Now to the update. Monday, the day after my post, I called Dad and said I decided to not move back. I didn't mention anything I was told, just that I was settled here, and moving back seemed like a step back. But I also said I wanted to keep in contact with them. They could invite me for dinner whenever they wanted, and I also said I would love for my stepsister and brother to be able to spend time with me here at home. He was disappointed, and I didn't feel any angriness in his tone at least. But he basically said "we'll see," and left it at that. I was also disappointed. But then Friday he called me, asked me if I wanted to have lunch Sunday, today. I said I already had plans with Grandpa and Grandma. He asked when I would be free, so we scheduled dinner for Thursday. I haven't told any of this to my stepsister. We talk and text regularly. She also hasn't heard them talking about me, but she did say my grandma, her mom's mom, is there to help with the baby and is being incredibly annoying. I laughed at that. I wanted to offer her to stay here, but didn't want her to get excited just for Dad to say no, so I'll try to talk with them Thursday. The big update is, I've just come back from visiting Grandma and Grandpa. We spent a lovely day together, but I also said I wanted to know everything that was going on. I wasn't a kid anymore, and I felt like living in lies. The most important things were things my cousin and aunt told me last week, but there were a few more. Grandpa has been subsidizing quite often our basic needs, like school, healthcare, etc., because Dad hasn't 1 cent saved up according to my grandpa. Also, my college fund was mainly contributed by him and Mom before her passing. I guess that makes sense. I was also dumb to not realize this sooner. He also has set up funds for my baby siblings and also one for my stepsister, because he didn't want her to feel excluded and not have the same opportunities as her siblings. This man is incredible. I love him so much. And yes, I'm very, very lucky. I've seen so many people commenting this. I know I'm so privileged to have grandparents and family members who can afford and are willing to help me. I hope one day I can help others the way that they're helping me. Anyways, I also expressed worries about Dad's financial situation, and he assured me that Dad is fine, more than fine. He will have to be less frivolous with money for a while, but that he would never let any of his kids or grandkids suffer or be in need of anything. As many of you said, he's trying to teach Dad a lesson I should have taught him a long time ago. So I'll stay out of it. I don't think I'll tell Dad that I know about this. I know many of you said to confront him, but I think it's for the best if he continues thinking that I'm oblivious. Lastly, we talked about why Dad kicked me out. He didn't have an answer either. I could see he and Grandma were very hurt by what Dad did. He said he asked for an explanation, but he got none. I'll continue having a relationship with my siblings outside of my dad and stepmom. I'll also try to schedule some weekly dinner with them. I know what you guys said about my father is mostly true, but I need to at least try to have a relationship with him. If not for him, then for my siblings and for me. But don't worry, I won't let him treat me like that anymore. Your grandpa is the greatest of all time. I wish I could have had someone like him in my life. I still think that your dad is trying to erase his last wife / your mom from his memory, as I've heard about such things all too often, although maybe not consciously. I'm not sure at this point if he's being honest. I hope things go well for you. My first thought was how Grandpa is taking advantage of non-family members to be able to afford all of this, since OP mentioned rental properties. So basically, because your grandpa is a scummy landlord, he has millions of dollars to pay for all of your family's stuff. Free apartment here for you, free house for your dad. Just because your grandpa is rich doesn't mean he's not a jerk, and you're just as guilty as he is for taking his dirty money. I'm sorry to disappoint you, young Redditors, but once you become an adult, parents are not obligated to give free rent, free food, free car, or a free house. It's all on goodwill of the parents. Regardless of whether OP's father got the house for free, he can give free rent, charge $1 a month for rent, or $1 million a month for rent. The OP is crying that it's insane that she has to leave, but he can do whatever the heck he wants. The OP's dad is only punished because he let himself be held hostage to his father's donations. It's his own problem. You get free stuff or free money, you can get strings attached. You can get free money Monday and have it cut off Tuesday. Charging rent can be a parenting lesson. My wife's kids are in their mid-20s, never paid rent, never picked up a broom or did anything in the house, never had a credit card, worked part-time because working full-time is too hard. This may seem like paradise to the average Redditor, but those are not well-adjusted adults. If I decide to sell the house and move across the country tomorrow, they will be sad puppies, and Redditors will cry for them too. You know what I always wonder? Do you think that Redditors would still love their favorite celebrities if they found out that they're landlords too? Well, good PR should kind of keep that stuff under wraps, right? And when your PR is really good, then if a cop pulls you over for drunk driving, he'll have all the news sites putting out hit pieces on him, just to keep everything in sync. My ex-husband did himself out of a grand life. My ex-husband was a problem. I didn't mind the myriad of health conditions he had, but the fact that he refused to take care of himself was the real issue, especially when his problems caused me to lose the very little sleep that I was going to get. I worked for a terrible corporate security firm that really doesn't care about its employees. I was the single field supervisor in my region, and on top of my regular 40-hour work week, I was also called on emergency to fill open positions. This was during the height of lockdown as well, which eventually put me at a regular 80 to 100 hours per 7-day work week. The money was incredible, but I was miserably exhausted. At the time, my husband was working part-time and receiving SSI, and spending all of his income on himself, video games and fast food, against his doctor's orders, while I paid both of our shares of the bills, car payment, insurance, phones, etc. This went on for about 3 years, getting progressively worse as time went on. Despite the amount of money I covered for him, I still managed to bump my credit by paying off my car and saved enough to buy a house. Nothing too fancy, but it's a 2-story with an unfinished basement, plenty of space, decent-sized yard, creek, and really cool neighbors who constantly invite us over to drink and play pool. While moving, I was still working 80+ hours and couldn't spare time to help much, but I paid for the moving truck and dinner for anyone willing to help us pack and move. I asked my then husband to make sure everything gets packed. He packed all of his own belongings, then the household furniture, then ignored whatever didn't fit. Was late returning the moving truck, and I had to call about the fee, which they were very kind enough to waive considering my circumstances. The result was that the majority of my stuff, my roommate's stuff, and my brother's stuff didn't fit in the moving truck. My brother was making trips every day after work to pick up a carload and bring it home. I asked my ex-husband to please do the same, and he agreed. 3 weeks later, I finally got a day off. I worked a 12-hour shift and planned to go pack up a few boxes and take them home while I was out. I walked into the house and saw that my ex had literally done nothing. 3 weeks he said he had been moving our stuff and he hadn't touched a thing. I had a meltdown. My legs gave out from shock and I sobbed on the stairs. My roommate and best friend happened to also come in right after me and found me on the stairs. He held me while I cried and assured me that he would take a few days off to get everything packed up and moved. He told me to go home and sleep, but I told him I'm already here, so I might as well take a few boxes, since my worthless husband lied to me about doing so. He helped me pack up some things and I drove home. I didn't even bother to unload it. I went inside and collapsed on my bed and cried myself to sleep. Hours and hours later, I finally woke up, a groggy mess, and made my way out to my car to start unloading. Best friend was there unloading his own car with a tired smile. He had been going all day and the sun was setting. Meanwhile, my husband was slacking off in the basement doing who knows what, breaking his promise. We managed to get everything moved, but I had to extend the lease by 1 week and pay a prorated rental cost, all due to my husband's neglect. I was quickly racking up anger at him, and finally when we were moved, I sat him down and told him how angry I was about the lies and his laziness and what he caused. He started accusing me of all kinds of things in return, like how I wouldn't passionately hug him because of his medical issues. I lost it. I screamed at him that I don't passionately hug anyone. I don't even passionately hug myself because I'm working the equivalent of 2 jobs with overtime to support his lazy butt and pay for his lifestyle because he wastes all of his money on fast food that he shouldn't even be eating and video games, and because he doesn't lift a single finger to do anything around the house, like unpacking, cooking, cleaning, nothing to make my life easier. In fact, he's actively making my life harder. I'm still cleaning up after him when he leaves dishes everywhere and stains in my carpet. So no, I don't want to passionately hug him if he's not going to do anything to earn it. He went radio silent on me for 2 weeks. It got progressively worse. He wouldn't text me or speak to me, wouldn't answer my calls, and eventually he wouldn't even look at me. Meanwhile, he's still living off my money. So finally one day I message him to ask him why he's treating me this way, and he ignores me. I ask several other questions and nothing. Finally, I tell him that if he hates me so much, he should just divorce me. He tells me the next day he wants a divorce. I ask him why. You're not going to believe his answer. You don't do enough for me. Oh boy, did he mess up. I unleashed it. I told him that I do everything for him. I pay for everything so he can have the cushy life. I give a roof over his head, food in his belly, money in his bank account, and taking days off specifically to spend time with him. That I was doing absolutely everything for him, and this is the repayment I get? I got extremely quiet and told him that since he wants the divorce, he had to file, and if he even suggested at forcing me to sell my house that I paid for, I would destroy him. I would hire an expensive lawyer, force him into the longest court battle of his life, and take him for every single penny he would ever earn for the rest of his life, along with court costs. Then I kicked him out. He moved out. He told me he was moving in with his family a few cities over and asked me to file. I filed in my county because it was closest. He raged at me when he found out. He wanted me to file online and pay an extra $270 out of my pocket since he expected me to pay for the entire thing, and I told him no. A few days later, I got a strange text from him that didn't sound like him. I argued with him, then a confession was made. It was his girlfriend. He had lied to me again and moved to New York from Georgia. She went psycho on me and screamed at me via text. Long story short, we argued and I told her I wouldn't be speaking to her again. I'm filing in my county because I already started the process, and I'm not changing my mind because he lied to me. If he hadn't lied, I might have been willing to file online, but I'm definitely not now. Months go by, and finally the date comes. She drove him to Georgia, and they were 15 minutes late. I knew this because I was 15 minutes early, and the clerk asked if I could contact him, so I went outside to do so. I saw her roll up. I told him she's not allowed inside due to lockdown restrictions, but honestly, I wouldn't have let her inside because I hate her. He nodded and up we went. We spoke to the clerk and started our paperwork. I have some legal knowledge, definitely a lot more than him, due to curiosity and things that have happened to me in the past, so I knew which questions to ask. I know how lazy this brat of a human is. He hates doing anything he doesn't have to do. So I reminded him in front of the clerk that he still had property at my home and I want it out of my house. The clerk told him that anything he leaves on my property after a certain date will legally belong to me, and there will be no way of getting it back without my express consent. He asked if he could work something out with me, and I told him no. You'll have to adhere to these legal guidelines, and anything left afterward will be forfeit. And even more good news, I married my best friend, and we've been together for nearly 4 blissful years now. On our 5th anniversary, he had agreed to a ceremony, since we were married in a simple ceremony with only 2 witnesses. And for more petty revenge, I still have my ex's childhood art binder, which he cherishes, and I will continue to hold it until he pays me back the $400 he owes me for the brand new tires I put on his car a mere few weeks before he decided he wanted the divorce. It's been over 4 years. I'm never giving it back at this rate, and I do send him annual reminders. Karen demands I babysit for her, even though I won't be able to because we're friends. So about a week ago, I got a call from someone I would consider a friend. We're not super close, but we are friendly, and we get together with the same group of friends a lot. She called and said that her kids were talking about how much fun they have with mine and wanted to know if we would be free this coming Saturday, a week and a half away at the time. My kids really do like hers, and I want to be better friends with her as well, so I said sure. She was relieved and said her husband would be out of town and she needed a babysitter from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. I felt like it was a major bait and switch because I thought she wanted to do something altogether, but I felt bad backing out when I had already told her I was completely free that day. I should have said something right then, but I didn't. Well, yesterday I ran into a friend of mine and she asked if I was excited for Saturday. I thought that was weird because no, I'm not excited to babysit someone else's kids for 14 hours. But I said my kids were definitely excited. She said, "Oh, good. Is your husband taking them to do something fun? Or who's watching them?" To which I made a face and responded that I was watching them. So then she was the one who was confused and said, "So you're not coming?" Well, last week I didn't go to the end of year PTA meeting because I had just started my period and I felt crummy and I didn't want to go. I guess after the fact, some friends went out to lunch. They decided to plan a big girls' day to relax before the kids are back home all day for the summer. Going to the city, shopping, pedicures, eating at nice restaurants, etc. And when it was brought up that I would probably love to go too, this friend said she needed to talk to me about some PTA stuff that I missed, so she would tell me about it when she called me. But instead, she decided to use me as her babysitter. So I called the friend, and I told her I wasn't aware of the girls' day at the time, and that I wouldn't be able to watch her kids after all. She asked if my husband could watch her kids too, which was no. She started crying that she really needed this, and what would she do now since her husband won't be home and it's too late to find someone willing to watch 5 kids for 14 hours with no pay. And then once the tears weren't working, she just got angry. She said it was rude to back out of a commitment just so I could selfishly do something fun, and how I'm an awful friend. My friends are all feeling super uncomfortable with this whole thing. We're all typically a very happy and drama-free friend group, so I know no one wants to take sides, and now I'm wondering if I should even go at all. So, am I the jerk for backing out of watching her kids after I had committed to it already? Update. I followed the advice from a lot of you to talk to one of the friends I'm closer to in the group, Sarah, to kind of get a feel for what was going on. Sarah said she was kind of frustrated with everyone. After I ran into the friend, her name is Casey, to make it less confusing, Casey had filled everyone in on what had happened. They all agreed that the mean friend, Jenny, shouldn't have lied or tricked me into watching her kids, but they all sympathized with her. I guess it is Jenny's 15th anniversary this weekend, but her husband forgot and had planned a boys' camping trip. So she was sad and angry with her husband, and they all knew she would really need a little getaway to cheer her up. Though it doesn't sound like anyone blamed me for not babysitting, they were disappointed for her and put all of their energy into making a plan for her to still be able to go. No one really seemed to bat an eye whether I was going to go or not, or cared that I was sad, except for Sarah. However, when it came time to make final plans for everything, someone decided to do the math and realized that if I was going to come, we would no longer all fit into the Suburban my friend Kim was going to drive. It's a 2-hour drive to the city, so taking one vehicle was definitely ideal. Sarah volunteered to drive her car and we would just take two, but it all just felt so forced and uncomfortable that I just ended up backing out. I mentioned in a few of my comments that I've always known I'm not one of the most involved friends in the group, but I've known most of them for almost a decade, so I guess I thought there would be more substance to our friendship than they all did. I don't think any of them have anything against me or dislike me, but I'm realizing I'm just not that important to them. It was pretty disappointing, and it definitely opened my eyes. So all of that happened on Thursday, and I'm not gonna lie, I was pretty heartbroken by all of it. The next day when my husband came home for lunch, he told me to hurry and pack an overnight bag because he had booked a hotel room for me and my sister-in-law to go have our own girls' night. His mom and sister pulled up an hour later so his mom could watch the kids after my husband went back to work, and his sister, who is seriously just the best, and I had the best 24-hour getaway ever. Am I the jerk for purchasing my guy friend his dream birthday present and outshining his girlfriend in the process? My guy friend, Tom, has been one of my best friends since college. We're in our mid-20s now, and both of us are currently in committed relationships with long-term partners. I've never had any feelings for Tom, nor has he ever had feelings for me. Since college, Tom has been a huge watch fanatic. 2 months ago, he was showing me this stunning vintage watch and made an offhanded comment about how he would die of joy if he were to somehow get his hands on one. Very coincidentally, I was in New York City a few weeks ago, and I stumbled upon this watch store that just so happened to have the exact one Tom wanted. It was expensive, I won't lie, at about $2,500, but I decided to get it for his 25th birthday. To me, it was basically fate. My boyfriend and I do very well financially, so this was something that I could personally afford and wanted to buy for Tom, especially knowing how happy it would make him. Tom has a tradition of hosting a dinner party at his place for his birthday and then following up with a cake and gift opening. I told him before the dinner that my gift was a huge surprise and asked if he could save it for last, and he agreed. His girlfriend ends up going first, and she gets him this gorgeous sweater that she crocheted for him and a book that he's been wanting, which I thought was super thoughtful and lovely. Last, it was my gift. When he opened it and saw what it was, he literally screamed, hopped over a bunch of people, and squeezed me in this bear hug. I was so happy to see him happy. It genuinely filled me with so much joy. He even got emotional, and I saw him swipe a few tears. He also said that it was the best gift he had ever received. The whole time, his girlfriend was only slightly smiling and stayed quiet. The next morning, I get a text from his girlfriend that essentially said that although she appreciated my thoughtful gift, she thought it was a bit out of touch and lacking awareness. She admitted that Tom had also told her about the watch and she wanted to get it for him, but it was way out of her budget. She accused me of knowing this. I had no idea, and still getting it to rub it in her face and to outshine her. She finished by saying how she felt like I had overstepped a boundary by getting the gift and would appreciate me not doing anything similar to it again in the future. I responded and told her that while I could see her point of view, I was just trying to do a nice thing for a close friend of mine. I asked her, wouldn't you rather he had gotten the gift and seen the happiness that it brought him than not getting it at all? She responded that that happiness was only shared between me and Tom and no one else, and that she felt hurt by my actions. Only my boyfriend knows about this and he's on my side, but thinking through it all again, I do see how I could have overstepped. But my boyfriend says that it's not my job to apologize for her insecurities. So, am I the jerk here? Not the jerk. You weren't thinking of how to hurt her. You just wanted a nice gift for your friend. Your boyfriend is right. You don't need to apologize for her insecurities. Am I the jerk for refusing when my friend wanted to join my fiance and I on our first trip together? I, 22 female, and my fiance, 23 male, are going on our first trip together. I'm really excited as this is my first time on a plane and even leaving the state that I've lived in my whole life. We've been planning this trip since earlier this year, and we've gotten our tickets as well as all of our accommodations. Altogether, we've already spent about $4,500 on everything, which has been something we've been saving for as we're both college students. Our trip is in about a month, and in comes my friend. We'll call her Ashley, she's 22, who's been my friend for about a year. She had brought up going to Japan as well, kind of jokingly, when we told her about the trip. I didn't think she was serious, but then she brought it up a few more times, even saying that she had a family member she could stay with. She asked if she could spend some time during the days joining us on our adventures while this family member was at work. I was supportive of this idea, as I knew this would be her first time to Japan as well, and I care about her. However, all of a sudden, she told me she wanted to get the tickets, but her family member no longer would have space for her to stay. She wanted to know if she can stay in our accommodations and join us on our flight back home. I let her know that our accommodation has strict rules against having more than 2 people, and there's only one small bed in this studio. She said she'd be fine sleeping anywhere, on the couch or the floor, etc. I told her that I'd feel more comfortable if we didn't chance a fee or getting in trouble in general, as I really just want a comfortable stay. I told her that we're still willing to spend time with her during the day, and I began sending her accommodations in her budget. I was hoping this would be enough. Instead, she's just asking if we can cancel our accommodation and pay for a larger accommodation that can have a bed for her as well. Mind you, she's not saying she will help us pay for the more expensive accommodation or anything else for that matter. She simply just wants to stay with us and for us to pay for a different accommodation. It seems like no matter what I say, she just keeps trying to manipulate me into letting her stay with us. This is also hard because I know my fiance and I really wanted this to be a romantic trip for us both, as we likely won't be able to afford another one for a few years as we finish school. I'm just stuck on what to say or do, and if I'm the jerk here. Should I be okay with my friend staying with us and joining in on our trip? Update. As I'm reading the comments, there's a lot of people saying that I should be upfront about it being a romantic trip. When I first told her about the trip, I did tell her this is basically going to be our honeymoon. I may have said it jokingly to her, but I did mean it. My fiance and I have been talking about going to Japan since we got together like 8 years ago. I thought this honeymoon comment, as well as me bringing up activities like making our anniversary cake at a shop in Kyoto, clearly set the tone in which I planned this trip to be. I do agree that I should re-clarify that this is a romantic trip, but I feel uneasy that she had received this well, and she shut down all my logical reasons. I was hesitant when she brought up spending some time with us, but I thought maybe it was just something nice to do. I get that it's a romantic trip, but my fiance was fine with it and supported her coming along on some of the more normal things like going to Universal, since it was only going to be a few days of our trip, like 4 out of our 30+ days that we'll be there, that she would join us. She originally said she'd only be in Japan for a week and she'd only need to be with us while her family members were at work from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. But now things have changed and she's saying it could be longer. I do have trouble with boundaries, and I always want to be the one helping people out when I can, which doesn't seem to work out for me, but I'm working on it. But as she has been pushing for the last few hours, no matter what I say, I've been getting more upset. I just didn't know if I was being selfish towards a friend in need. Now, I can definitely see that this was probably the plan all along, and she isn't in a tight spot. She just wants to use us. This realization does hurt, as I thought we had gotten really close in our shared major, but I guess she really doesn't care about my feelings like I care about hers, because ultimately, I just didn't want to hurt her feelings. She recently got dropped out of our major, so I thought she was just really sad and needed a pick-me-up. Update, 2 days later. I ended up refusing for the 10th time, but I told her no bluntly and as clearly as possible. As you guys have said, no was a complete sentence. I also made sure to say that I wasn't down with changing anything and that I want to spend time with my fiance alone. That I've been trying to nicely say no, but I don't appreciate getting manipulated nor having my partner and I's feelings ignored. She said, "We've been talking about this trip for so long. Why didn't we just work it out earlier? It's not my fault that this is last minute. Why won't you just do this one? It's not much different, but there's an extra bed." And she sent me a link to a specific accommodation, where the 2 beds are side by side, by the way. I'm so weirded out. She basically ignored what I said, so I have ignored her since. We're in the same friend group, so I think it's probably going to get weird. But honestly, I'm okay with that. Regardless of how that goes, my fiance and I will be going alone and not meeting up with her or anyone anywhere during our trip. This was so painful to read. OP needs to drop Ashley because there's no way in heck she's that clueless about this being a romantic trip. I wanted to shake her through the screen, not gonna lie. Am I the jerk for refusing to tattoo at my cousin's wedding? I'm a tattoo artist. I've done an apprenticeship the first year of tattooing. I work as a tattoo artist for 4 years now, and I opened a studio recently. Me and my family are invited to a wedding, and it's taking place in another state. My cousin is marrying, and we got the invitation a few months ago. Time has moved forward, and now the wedding is in a week already. Out of the blue, my cousin, let's call him Matt, texted me with something along the lines of, "You're gonna tattoo me on my wedding day." I was a bit confused, as I never even thought of bringing my equipment, since I also didn't plan for a guest spot or anything. A guest spot is a tattoo artist working at another studio for a few days or weeks, mostly in a different area to grow the clientele. I jokingly asked if he has a machine, as I still hoped that he wasn't serious. He then just asked if I don't have one, and that one machine wouldn't take up that much space to take with me. I replied that I didn't plan on bringing my equipment, that in fact contains more than just a machine. We have color and hygiene stuff, stencil, etc., and that I'm not prepared to tattoo at a wedding of which I don't know anything about. The layout of the location, is it inside, outside, and so on. He then said that he had planned on this and that it would mean a lot to him to both get a tattoo on his wedding day and that I'd be the one to tattoo him. Remember that this is the first time I'm hearing about this. I again tried to explain that I don't feel comfortable with that and that it's really short notice. He saw my messages, but he stopped replying. This morning, my mother called me and she was furious. She asked why I couldn't pull my crap together and just tattoo Matt. I told her what I've previously told Matt as well, but she didn't want to hear it. She just said it would mean a lot to her and Matt's family if I just do it, and that it could be my wedding gift, then she hung up. I talked to my brother about it, and he just shrugged it off and said, "It would be nice of you." I'm unsure what to do now. As I said, I'm not really comfortable with the whole situation, especially because I've never been guest spotting, so I never had to travel, let alone get on a plane with my equipment. But is that just selfish? I mean, it would mean a lot to apparently everyone, and I'm just saying no. Edit. 1. I do have an actual wedding gift already, as they sent out a wish list with their invitations. There was a point that said artwork, because they recently moved into a bigger house, and apparently they want random artwork to decorate. I oil painted them a painting I spent several days on, so I also don't want to give him a voucher as a gift. 2. Matt doesn't have any tattoos as far as I know. And 3. I don't know what my mom's problem is with all of this. I think she just wants to keep the peace. Update. So the last few hours have been crazy. First, I called my mom and she asked me again, this time very friendly, if I would do the tattoo for Matt at his wedding. I told her no, and I gave her all the same reasons I had previously given her. I added that I felt like she doesn't take me and my tattooing seriously. She didn't say anything for a bit until she tried to explain that she really thought it wasn't a big deal. I told her again that it is, and that my mom of all people should know how my job works. She agreed and apologized profusely. I then asked her if she'd like to attend and watch me work on a client's appointment, and to my surprise, she said yes. Mom is tagging along tomorrow. Now on to Maddie, or rather his bride. I finally got a hold of the bride. Let's say her name is Becky, and I asked her about the request her fiancé confronted me with. She seemed surprised, as she apparently had heard from my aunt that I made them something for their new house. She assumed it would be a painting since I'm the artist of the family, and it's known that I also paint. I confirmed that, but that Maddie has come forward with this out of the blue, and that it's not a good idea for many reasons. She agreed with me immediately. I think she does have tattoos. She thanked me for telling her, as no one else had. Becky seemed really mad, but she seemed to pull herself together. I would have lost it. I'm assuming that Becky confronted Matt after our call, because only 3 to 4 hours later, I checked the family group chat and there was a message from Becky. There will be no ceremony on the 13th, as Matt and I decided we aren't getting married. Matt and I have things to figure out, so please text or call us tomorrow if you have questions. For the rest of the day, we'll be on flight mode. After dinner, Becky called me and apologized for Matt again. She said it was a stupid idea of his and that he just thought it would be cool. She then informed me that she still wants me to fly over for the wedding day, as she will be hosting a party instead of a wedding. Everything is paid for anyways, and she doesn't want anything to go to waste. I asked if they broke up, and she said, "Not yet, but I'm gonna stay at my sister's place until next week." I'm assuming Matt hasn't been too great, but I'm sure I'll hear about it. Apparently, my brother and my mom aren't invited. My call must have been the last straw, but as far as I'm concerned, Becky is handling it gracefully, and Matt will be okay too, I'm sure. So I'm going to a party, but did I just make a new friend? Update. So because a lot of you wanted to know how the Bring Your Mom to Work day was, I picked her up in the morning and we headed to the studio. I showed her around, told her a few background stories about some of the artwork and photos that are hanging on our walls, and I explained to her my routine as I prepared everything. My client arrived and I handled it like I usually would, just with my mom sitting there. I explained every step of the process, and she also asked me questions about my ink, needles, technique, etc. It was a lot of fun having her around, and she really did surprise me with her openness and interest. When I was done with tattooing, my mother had to leave for work, but thanked and hugged me for bringing her along, as she not only enjoyed spending time with me, but also loved seeing me doing my job so professionally, and said that she sees my work and efforts now. On to the wedding and party. The party started at 1400 as the ceremony was canceled. I arrived and was immediately welcomed by Becky's sister. She hugged me and helped me with my painting. Everyone was outside, drinking and having a small bite already. I went to say hi to Becky and she hugged me warmly. She seemed tired, but otherwise fine. Becky was also smiling a lot, which surprised me. I went to mingle as I didn't want to start off with questioning her. I met a lot of her friends, and apparently most of them weren't too fond of Matt. I heard a few things of how he tried to change Becky to be more like his ex and stuff like that. Not a great look, Matt. Speaking of, not a single friend or relative of Matt was around, besides me and one other cousin. Later, as we sat down to eat, I asked if I could join Becky's table. They said yes, so I was sitting with Becky, her sisters, and 3 of her friends. I introduced myself to one of them, haven't talked to him before, and Becky added that I'm Matt's cousin, the one who was supposed to tattoo. A simultaneous, "Oh," came from everyone, and with that, the conversation was about Matt from the get-go. I asked what happened. The sister just rolled her eyes and was like, "What didn't?" Becky and friends told me. A while ago, Matt had apparently started to pick on Becky for being herself in various ways. It started small, like asking her to change her sports routine from workouts to only running. Then he criticized her cooking as he prefers to eat more meat and more traditional food. They discussed these topics and it always seemed fine, but he didn't stop. He asked her if she couldn't let her hair grow or get extensions, and speaking of hair, if she couldn't get them bright. Becky has shoulder-long black hair. More and more seemed to pile up until he also started to make comments along the lines of, "Can't you be more like my ex?" As I understand it, he didn't say it specifically, but it was clear what he meant. I was shocked. I asked why she didn't break up because of that, but Becky explained that in the situations, it didn't seem as bad as when you list those reasons. She had also made a few changes to make Matt happy, but continued to do what she wanted most of the time. Time went on and the issues resurfaced again and again in different ways. The last big fight was only a few weeks ago, when Matt called Becky by his ex's name. They somehow settled this, so let's skip forward to when I called Becky about the tattoo idea. After our call, she went up to Matt and asked him why he didn't talk to her about it, and why he would just decide doing something like that on their wedding day. He explained that he wanted to surprise her and stuff like that. Becky went on telling him this wasn't happening and that she wanted to be able to enjoy the wedding and their honeymoon. Again, they seemed to agree in the end and he apologized. But later, as Becky was starting to cook dinner and Matt was sitting at the counter, they talked about tattoos again. Apparently, really chill discussion about tattoos in general. And Becky asked him playfully what he intended on getting tattooed. He gestured across his chest and said, "I want my birth date, our wedding date, and your birth date." But he said the actual dates. Becky said she went blind for a millisecond. The third date was in fact not her birthday. She asked him again and he repeated the same dates. She then said that's not her birthday. He persisted that it was and that she should stop trying to fool him. She said she started to cry and ran to get her purse to show him her driver's license. That's when his face slipped. He tried to get out of it by making excuses that he isn't good with dates, etc. But Becky just went straight to her phone and checked Facebook. She found his ex's profile showing her birthday. It was the date he would have gotten tattooed on his chest if I hadn't said no and called Becky. My stupid cousin would have ended up with the birthday of his ex-girlfriend next to his wedding date. Becky said she was over this and that this is enough. She started to immediately reorganize the whole wedding and honeymoon while kicking him out of the house. A bit later, she called me back. She also mentioned that she didn't want to say what happened on the phone as she thought I might tell my family and she really didn't want to hear about it. Fair, I get that. Becky changed the honeymoon booking and is now taking her best friend instead. Also, if you're wondering, Becky's dad is currently the owner of their house as they agreed to slowly pay him back. Due to his financial wealth and stability, that made more sense this way. As far as I know, Becky's going to stay there. This was truly a wild ride, and I'm pretty sure that Becky and I are going to be good friends. We really hit it off. I don't have much dignity left for Matt, so I'm not sure I'll keep the contact at all. P.S. Becky loved my painting. Am I the jerk for refusing to raise my brother's kid for him? I was adopted by the people I consider my real parents when I was 7. My biological father is my adopted mother's brother, and she adopted my sister and me from him because he's a nut job. We were all raised with the knowledge that we were adopted. If I'm being honest, the notion of adoption isn't really a thing in my culture, as biological parenthood is very important. Families will just take in a kid from an incompetent relative and raise them alongside their own kids, but the kid is always aware of who their biological parents are. The biological parents are usually involved as well, but they're not the primary guardians, and the kid usually goes back to their biological parents once they're more stable. My younger brother, who's 17, is a little jerk, and he got his ex-girlfriend pregnant. Furthermore, he cheated on her, and she wants nothing to do with him. She figured out she was pregnant too late to do anything about it. She wants nothing to do with my brother and our family, and I can't blame her. Initially, my mother was going to take the baby and raise it, but obviously, considering how things are done in my culture, my mother was expecting my brother's ex to be involved. Even when my mother promised that she had let her sign over parental responsibility and move on, she just didn't seem genuine about it. The ex-girlfriend decided to just speak to an adoption agency and adopt the baby out externally, which upset my mom, as you probably guessed why. Blood is very important to her. My husband and I have been struggling to conceive, so I offered to take the baby, but I explained that I would only do it if it was a real adoption, not like how my culture does it, where I'd just be raising the baby for my brother. I made it clear that the baby wasn't a toy to be passed around, and that I wouldn't be giving the baby back when my brother finally gets his crap together in 15 years. My brother's ex was happy with this arrangement, and we've been in the process of getting paperwork started. Everyone in the family is upset. They think I'm being unnecessarily difficult by going against our cultural conventions just because I'm infertile and want to have a baby. My mother thinks that I'm being selfish because I was basically raised in the way I'm refusing to raise this baby in, and I'm being hypocritical. She thinks I should raise the kid with the knowledge of who their real parents are, which is something I'd share with them anyway when the time was right, and give my brother an opportunity to learn to be a father. I don't think I'm the jerk here, but given the cultural perspective and the nature of my own upbringing, I'm starting to think I may be a bit hypocritical. Not the jerk. If little bro wanted to learn to be a parent, he can learn now. Do not let them badger you into compromising on this. If he wants to be a parent, he either needs to learn now or allow someone who is equipped and prepared to raise his kid for him. What's best for him isn't what's best for the baby. Sorry, not sorry. Not the jerk. You would be adopting the baby from an infant, not taking it into your family when it's older like you. Official adoption would give the child security, not worrying about being passed back on a whim to a biological parent. It could give you the state stability and security as well. Seems like a wonderful opportunity. Am I the jerk for letting my niece choose where her family lives? My brother passed when my niece was 10. He was divorced from sister-in-law at the time of his passing. My brother's assets and my niece's cut of my parents' estate were placed in a trust for my niece. I was in charge of the trust. There was some back and forth with sister-in-law over who controlled the trust, but I was ultimately the one who got control. The trust was basically able to pay off what was my brother's house, and the interest from the estate pays for its upkeep. There isn't much left after that, but at least my niece has a paid-off house. In lieu of my sister-in-law going after the estate for child support, I let her and my niece move into the house rent-free. My niece just turned 17 and is headed to her senior year of high school. My sister-in-law has since remarried and has a new family with them, 1 kid and 1 stepkid. The new husband and family have moved into the house. The new husband apparently just got a job transfer and the whole family will have to move for the job. I talked to my niece about the move and she hates the idea. She doesn't want to move with only 1 year left of high school. I agree with her on that issue. My sister-in-law wants me to sell the current house and use the funds to buy a new house in a new location. I told her that was automatically a no-go. I wouldn't buy a house in a new location with my niece only likely living there full-time for 1 more year. My niece plans to go to college and not likely in the area of the new house. This would be more of a benefit for sister-in-law than niece. I gave my sister-in-law 3 options. 1. The family can continue to live in the current house and continue the deal as is. This means new hubby's job will fall through. The new location is closer to his family. 2. We can sell the house. I'll put the money into the trust. This will force my niece to move with her family. They may have to downsize because of me not giving them money for a new house. Or 3. The family moves and my niece stays behind. She essentially does her senior year alone in the house. I'm not far from them and can check on her, but can't be there daily. I'm out of her school district, so she can't live with me and still go to the same school. My sister-in-law hates me right now over tearing her family up. I really don't care about her hating me. I just don't want to disrupt her schooling. If my niece said yes to the move, I might be willing to let sister-in-law use the money as well. So, am I the jerk for letting my niece choose where her family lives? Not the jerk. Imagine the audacity to expect your daughter's house to be sold to buy a new house for you, your husband, and your other kids. Whose house would it be? Even if she were a freshman, it's not her job to buy her mother and stepfather a house. The house and/or money from the sale of the house belongs to your niece, period. I would be very concerned about having a 17-year-old living alone. Today I messed up by losing my job, $4,000 in inventory. I'm 16 and I've been working as a cashier at a nearby supermarket for the past 6 months, so I'm still relatively new to some things. During the peak of our rush hour yesterday afternoon, 2 women arrived at the front of my line with carts full of expensive merchandise. Right from the start, I noticed that they were very talkative as I scanned their items, asking me numerous questions about myself, my life, and my job. It almost felt like a distraction. At the time, I didn't find it too strange since customers often strike up conversations like that. They shared details about their lives as traveling nurses, and one of them mentioned having worked as a cashier at a similar place to where I work. The first woman's total came to around $2,600, all for items like baby monitors, a pump, and other baby supplies. I was taken aback by the amount because I hadn't realized how quickly it had added up. It was the first time I had seen a purchase of this magnitude. Now, here's where it gets interesting. At the end of the first woman's total, she showed me a store credit card with instructions on the back that read, "Insert card, then select cash tender." I started feeling suspicious at this point, but the card looked very real, so I allowed it. She was also quite convincing, explaining how the card worked and that it was a privilege earned by people with excellent credit. So I followed her instructions. I pressed the button indicating that she paid in cash, handed her the receipt, and then it was the next woman's turn. She also had a similar cart filled with items totaling around $1,300. I admit by that point I should have caught on, and to be honest, I feel like an idiot. She handed me a card identical to her friend's with the same instructions to select cash. I pressed the same button, but since they didn't actually give me any cash, I didn't put anything in the register. It wasn't until later in the day that I discovered neither of their cards worked because I hadn't pressed card tender on the machine. Their act of inserting the cards was a simple trick, so off they went with all that merchandise in their carts, a receipt in hand, and not a single dollar spent. About half an hour later, I consulted my manager and was informed that it was definitely a scam. Honestly, I'm still shocked that I fell for it so badly. They knew exactly how to respond to every question, having a ready-made explanation for each item. They even mentioned a baby shower in relation to some of the items, although I don't recall all of their excuses. It was very well put together, I must admit, looking back. I should have noticed the signs earlier, but the pressure from the long line of customers behind them got to me. Am I the jerk for taking away my girlfriend's key after she almost burned my house down? My girlfriend wanted a pizza. I have really good frozen pizzas from the local Italian market. They're made fresh, and if you do them up on a pizza stone, they come out perfect. I've made them for us many times. It's a simple process. You take the pizza stone and put it in the oven, let it get hot. Put the pizza on the paddle and slide it into the hot stone. Once it's ready, you slide the paddle under the pizza and pull it out. Put it out on the carving board and cut it up. Easy, right? Nope. My pizza stone was dirty. It's scorched, not dirty. So her brilliant idea was to make the pizza on my plastic cutting board. Because that way, she could just take the cutting board out with the oven mitts and cut the pizza without having to use the tools. I got home and saw black smoke coming out of my house, and my girlfriend was on the phone with 911. My dog is not on his leash, and he's going crazy. I go to the front door to see if it's hot in the house or if I can see flames. No flames and no heat. I get to the stove and I turn it off. I open the sliding door to let out more smoke, and I get my leash on the way out. The firefighters are there within 5 minutes and the smoke is already dissipating. They go in to make sure. All clear. Thank God they were there in less than an hour. It's covered by the city. If it was over an hour, I would have been charged for the response. My oven is done for though, and I have a lot of smoke damage to clean up. I told my girlfriend I was glad she was okay, but that she's an idiot, and she wasn't allowed in my house alone for a while. I took her key away. We don't live together, but she has roommates and likes having a big house to herself on my days off. She says that it's a mistake anyone could make and that I'm a jerk for calling her names. Yes, she said those words. She said that it's my fault for not just getting microwave pizza and having to eat fancy. Not the jerk. A 24-year-old who doesn't know you can't put a plastic cutting board in the oven is an idiot. She didn't apologize. She thinks you're too fancy for wanting non-microwave pizza. Seems like she likes having your house to herself more than she likes you. My girlfriend is getting close to another man who I know is interested in her. My girlfriend and I have been together for 5 years. We're both in our mid-20s, met in college, and we've been living together for around 3 years. A little over 6 months ago, we had to find a new place to live rather quickly. Thankfully, we found a great place in the city, a little on the expensive side, but we make it work. A week into living here, my girlfriend met one of our neighbors, Jenna, who lives almost directly across the hall. Jenna lives there with her boyfriend, and they're roughly our age, maybe a couple of years older. By the end of December, my girlfriend and Jenna became pretty well acquainted. I don't know if I'd say friends because they never hung out outside of them inviting us to dinner and vice versa, but I do think my girlfriend and Jenna texted every now and then. Jenna is a nice enough person, but her boyfriend, Sam, is a real jerk. He's arrogant and entitled, and I don't like him. My girlfriend didn't like him either, in the beginning, her words, but eventually she seemed to warm up to him. Eventually, we learned that the two of them are in an open relationship. I've never really understood that whole thing, but it's really not my business, so ultimately I don't care. What does bother me is I've caught Sam straight up checking out my girlfriend. I've noticed Jenna noticing it too and being uncomfortable with it. I didn't think my girlfriend had noticed at first. About 2 months ago, when my girlfriend and I were coming home from dinner with a friend, we heard the two of them screaming at each other from inside their apartment. My girlfriend wanted to knock and ask if things were okay. I wanted to leave them alone, so we knocked. Sam answered and said that it wasn't the best time, and Jenna pushed past him and left with a suitcase. He called after her, but she told him to buzz off, and that was it. 2 weeks later, we didn't hear a thing from either of them. My girlfriend texted Jenna asking if she was okay, and she got no response. The next bit I only know because my girlfriend told me. She caught Sam as he was leaving and she was coming home from work, and she asked him if things were okay. He confirmed they broke up and that Jenna has moved out completely. The next day while I was at work, my girlfriend went to his place to see how he was doing, and he explained to her what happened. It's not really relevant, but because I know some people may be curious, apparently he cheated and Jenna broke up with him. I feel like there's more to this story, but I don't know if that's all Sam told my girlfriend or if that's all she told me. Ever since, my girlfriend and Sam have been texting pretty much every day, if not every other day. I told her I'm a little uncomfortable with how close they've gotten. She said she feels bad because he doesn't really have anyone now. I told her it's his fault for being a cheater, and it bothered me she has sympathy for him. She agreed to dial it back, but said she won't ignore him completely. Then I asked 2 really stupid questions. The first was if she was attracted to Sam. I expected her to say no, honestly, because she's always told me that I'm exactly her type, looks and personality, and him and I are completely different. She said that that's not a fair question. When I asked why, she said she should be allowed to find other men attractive without it being an issue, and said surely I'm attracted to other women. I agreed, but said it's different when it's a guy who's been staring at you every opportunity he gets. I took her silence after that as a yes. I also took it to mean she actually did notice him checking her out. The second stupid question was if she had the opportunity to hook up with him guilt-free, would she? She again said I'm being unfair, because if she says yes, then I'll get upset, even though she'd have permission to do it. My response was, so that's a yes. We were quiet for a while after that until someone texted her. She looked at her message and then looked away, and I asked who it was. She didn't answer me, and I got visibly upset. I started walking to our bedroom and grabbed a bag to pack some clothing. She followed me and said that they're just friends. I asked if she would be willing to show me her phone. She hesitated but said yes, but the hesitation was enough for me. I grabbed my bag and my laptop, and I told her I just need to get away from here for a while and clear my head. She asked what that meant, and I said I have to think about some things, and I left. So here I am, sitting in a hotel room, wondering what's happening in my relationship and wondering if I messed things up, if she messed things up, or if we both did. This guy is great at breaking up relationships. My money is on him trying to hook up with her before you two even break up. They might date, as it'll make her feel like she's making the honest decision. He'll cheat on her too, and she'll slink her way back to you after she realizes what a mistake it was to hook up with him at all. I'm sorry that this happened to you, but it's time to either start taking your relationship seriously, even to the point of moving, or cutting your losses and ending this relationship before it blows up under your nose. The guy sees this as a competition. Your girlfriend is one of his conquests. Girlfriend likes the attention, and this experience is new for her. Easy for her to be indulged in it. She doesn't sound very smart though. The first question was irrelevant. There will always be people you're attracted to. The second question was quite telling, however, because it does show intent. In any case, it's obvious this girl is hot for him and is starting to lose herself, assuming she hasn't already. As for if you messed up anything, as far as I can see, no. Also, if this is the type of guy to make your girl fall in love, she wasn't worth building a relationship with in the first place. I'm 21, male. My friend, who's 19, is trying to be my son's mom. I have sole custody of my son. I'll be the first to admit that I'm very protective and paranoid over Damien, but I don't think I'm overreacting in this instance. I'm friends with a group of people in the same major as me. The girl in question, Ivy, is a recent addition to the group, and she's a bit immature, but she's still very friendly and nice to hang out with. She tried flirting with me in the past, but I firmly rejected her, and she seemed to have gotten over it. We've known each other for about a year now. Recently, they all hung out at my place for a bit. Obviously, Damien was there and met Ivy. Ivy was instantly smitten because Damien's adorable. Her behavior since then has been really off-putting. She constantly asks to babysit Damien and pouts when I say no. Thinks Damien should come to every study session or hangout, even ones later at night. Wants to talk about him constantly, etc. One or two girls before have tried to be Damien's mom, and my response has been icing them out of our lives. But this is a lot more complicated as she's integrated into my main group of friends. I've mostly just not responded to her when she talks about Damien, but I'm looking for ways to shut her down permanently without getting everyone else involved. I think it's one thing for her to offer once or twice to babysit, then stop when I say I don't need it. The thing is, she's constantly offering to babysit and only seems to want to talk about my kid or our life, which is a bit of a red flag to me. Also, Damien has plenty of women in his life to look up to. My mom and my sister are the people watching him when I'm at school or working. You can just let her know that while her offers to babysit are much appreciated, you find his presence during break work and study times as a distraction to what you need to focus on, but that her offers are under consideration, and if you have need of her, you will take her up on the offer. The other thing that might be happening is that she's crushing on you and wants to do you a favor in hopes of winning your affection. Her acceptance of your kid is a way of showing you how great you two would be together. This is how I thought when I was a 19-year-old with a guy in my friend group who had a kid. OP. I think I'll firmly tell her that I don't need her to babysit and that I have plenty of people already who can watch Damien, and that I will not talk about him if she brings him up again. So basically, Ivy and these other girls aren't actually that interested in Damien, are they? They're more interested in showing you what great mommies they are and how much they love your kid in order to get with you, right? If Ivy gets really overbearing, you might need to get blunt about it. Sorry, I've got enough childcare, and study groups are for studying. Also, ease up on the maternal stuff, okay? I'm not in the market for a new mother for my son, and you're getting pretty creepy about it. OP. That's my feeling about it, and it's happened before. I'm trying to keep down my knee-jerk reaction of being upset over her trying to use my son because I don't think it's a conscious decision. I don't mind my friends loving Damien and wanting to hang out with him. He's a very lovable kid. Since you had your son at a young age, you grew up fast. She hasn't yet experienced real life. She'll get over it. Good for you for sticking to your guns. Where is Damien's mom in all of this? You should tell her in case of Ivy is stalking her Facebook and such. I don't think it's to the point to get the authorities involved, but more of a heads up. OP. Damien's mom is not in his life, period. But thanks for the suggestion. Update 2 months later. Some things I didn't mention in my original post that probably explain my situation a bit better. Damien is generally babysat by my mother as I rent the apartment above her garage and she's retired. Barring that, my older sister is a stay-at-home mom. My niece is 4, and she can take Damien in. Damien has also started kindergarten. I definitely don't need any help with childcare. Ivy's very intense and outgoing, almost overbearing. As I said before, she's 19 and still has the teenager mind. She was very badgering about both her flirting and her childcare offers, and I think she thinks that if my kid likes her, I'll like her too. I'm very, very careful about who I let into his life, as that could affect him. I also have a Facebook that I keep on tight lockdown. I occasionally share photos of Damien on there, like 3 or so a year, kind of holiday card type pictures. Relevant. Ivy and I ended up alone together on campus, and she once again made an offer to watch him for me so I could have a night to myself. I firmly said that I don't need a babysitter. Her repeated offers were not appreciated, and that spending time with my son is far from a hardship. He goes to sleep at like 8, so it's not like I don't have free time. I think that got through to her and she stopped asking. I thought it was over, or so I thought. At the beginning of October, I went out with my family to a pumpkin patch and fall festival thing. My sister took a picture of Damien and me together. I thought it was a nice photo, so I uploaded it so that people like my uncles and aunts upstate could see it. One of my oldest female friends made a comment about how attractive I looked in the picture, but it was just a joke. Ivy has my number because of the study group. About a day after I had posted that picture, I got a long rambling text about how that friend who left the comment was secretly in love with me and was being disrespectful. It was a wall of text that honestly made me think that maybe Ivy was drunk despite it being a Tuesday afternoon. And then I realized, how the heck did she get access to the picture and the comments when we're not even friends on Facebook and everything is locked down? She had gone onto a mutual friend's Facebook without them knowing. I told her that her next level Facebook stalking and immense investment in my kid's life was incredibly worrisome. Then I blocked her. I talked to a couple of other people about it, and they all mentioned that they thought Ivy's behavior was getting increasingly strange and they're going to talk to her about it. A mutual friend, Maggie, then called me and said that Ivy had come to her apartment sobbing about how I don't love her, I'm her dream guy, etc. Romance novel stuff. Very concerning. I got a lot of similar texts until Maggie somehow convinced her to delete my number. Anyway, I ended up not talking to Ivy anymore anyway, and she's probably not coming to the study groups anymore, hopefully. This was the last manifestation of teenage angst, and she'll feel embarrassed about it afterwards instead of something more serious. Maggie says that she'll update me in case something drastic happens. Am I the jerk for outing my cousin on her social media that she owes me $2,000 while she was posting about her success? My cousin Deborah, who's 33 female, cost me, 32 male, 2,000 Australian dollars in our interstate holiday last year. She accidentally and recklessly slammed the door of our rental car into the neighboring parked car. The rental car was under my name, and subsequently, I was liable for the excess payment. It's been over 8 months, and she has yet to pay me back. Deborah argued that the rental car was shared among all 7 cousins, and that accidents were a part of the risk of sharing a rental vehicle. Given that all the cousins had initially agreed to split the cost of the trip, this $2,000 should also be split. Some of the cousins were on board, others weren't. I wasn't. I didn't agree to split the costs of entirely avoidable and reckless mistakes. Because we couldn't come to an agreement, what ended up happening was that no one has paid me a cent. After a few months of hounding Deborah and largely getting ignored, she broke down in tears, claiming that she's financially struggling at the moment and can barely make ends meet. For context, Deborah is an accountant at one of our country's big accounting firms. She has to be on at least 100,000 Australian dollars. So she isn't struggling financially, she's just bad with her finances. But whatever, I let it slide. And honestly, I forgot about the $2,000 until last weekend. Deborah posted a photo of a Tiffany & Co. necklace with the caption, "Hard work pays off. Success isn't easy, but it's shiny." I looked up the necklace. It cost $880. I responded with, "If you were half as successful as you're pretending to be, you'd pay me back the $2,000 you owe me." Honestly, I wasn't thinking. I was just acting out of anger. But unexpectedly, people started reacting to my comment, leaving their own comments such as, "Deb owes you money too?" and "I see Deb hasn't changed a bit." That wasn't my intent, but I'd be lying if I said I didn't find it funny. Deborah deleted her post several hours later, but hasn't said a word to me. However, she must have complained to the other cousins because 2 of our cousins reached out and said I went too far and that I should have kept the matter within the family, which is easy for them to say because they're not out $2,000. Before I let my anger get the better of me, am I the jerk or am I in the right here? Not the jerk. To start, let's dismiss outright her silly claim that the cost for the damage she caused should be split among everyone who rented the car. So yes, she owes you $2,000. Next, I disagree with the family members and some commenters who said the public shaming went too far because your efforts to get paid back through less controversial means had clearly gone nowhere. And look at the result. We discovered that she is a habitual non-payer backer, which makes much more sense than the idea of an accountant who can't manage money. No, she isn't bad with money. She just doesn't care to pay back her debts, which was important to reveal. You probably will never get your $2,000 back, but now you and everyone know not to lend Deb any more money. If I hear your future wife will be so lucky one more time, I'm going to snap. I, 24 male, cannot count how many times I've been told by women that my future wife is going to be lucky. It usually goes like this. I go to a family or a friend gathering or a college class or any kind of social activity. I meet the women there and they get to know me. After a while, they start telling me how great of a guy I am and how a lot of women would be lucky to have me. When there's a gathering and I decide to cook something for the group and bring it, they say, "Your future wife will be so lucky to have you." A friend of mine got sick and went to the hospital, so I made cookies and went to visit them almost every day. "Your future wife will be lucky to have you." My sister had an emergency and left her kids with me, so I took care of them and played with them, and I put them to bed until she came back. "Your future wife will be so lucky to have you." I can keep going and giving examples, but it would be a very long post. At first I liked it. It was cool hearing it from women and telling myself, yes, maybe she will be lucky to have me since I'm such a great guy. But if I was such a great guy, how is it that no one wants to be with me romantically? It's not for the lack of trying, because I've been rejected multiple times, and for the most part, the women I show interest in never show it back. And when I do try to approach women, I get politely rejected. Maybe I'm not that great of a guy after all, and hearing women saying, "Your future wife will be lucky to have you," now just makes me angry and sad, and I just don't want to hear it anymore. Not really looking for advice. I just wanted to get it off my chest. You sound like a cool guy. Your future wife will be lucky to have you. 37 here and been there. Don't chase, but also don't change who you are. Yeah, these types of compliments are nice to hear and kind of depressing all the same. I chased for a long time and only ever ended with heartache. I stopped chasing and focused on my growth. Took a few years, but I found someone special that sees me for all those compliments. I know it's so cliche, but give it time, and most importantly, never change who you are. You're a good dude. That's one of the phrases people use, meaning it's a compliment, but it can do a little bit of damage. My version of that phrase is, "You're beautiful on the inside." I know no one is trying to be mean, but dang does it sting. I was told the same thing myself when I was younger. Didn't even have my first real relationship until I was 28, and it was actually with a woman who was a bit older than me and had 2 kids. She loved how responsible I was and actually wanted to be with me. So now we've been married for almost 10 years and I have 2 awesome stepkids. Hang in there, man. It'll get better eventually. Karen insists I share my Nintendo Switch with her brat. This just happened the other day, and after sharing this story with my friends and family, a few of them suggested that I share it here. The scene is a Southwest airline flight. I was sitting in a window seat next to 2 lovely ladies, and directly horizontal from us was an empty seat, a mom and her son. The flight was taking off. For those who don't know, you are required to stay seated and keep your seatbelts on for the beginning of the flight until the captain says otherwise. I was strapped in my seat and decided to take out my Nintendo Switch from my carry-on beneath my feet. "Excuse me, ma'am." I didn't realize at first that the mother in the seats horizontal from me was trying to get my attention. She unbuckled her belt and moved to the empty seat by my aisle, closer to me. "Ma'am, with the video game." I lifted my head, but the stranger next to me nudged me as well. "That lady wants you to get your attention," the woman next to me muttered. I turned my head to see this woman leaning across the aisle with her hands on the armrest of the aisle seat in my row. "Sorry," she began. "I just wanted to know if there was any way that my son could use that game for a little while." "I'm so sorry," I began. "My Nintendo Switch is just really important to me. I don't feel comfortable giving it to anyone I don't know. I don't even let my sister play with it." I was going to continue, but the woman cut me off. "Oh, my son's not like most kids," she replied. "He's not destructive. His cousin has one of these, and he knows how to play it." She smiled and set her hand out. The 2 women seated next to me looked at me as if they were also in disbelief. "I'm sorry," I said again. "I just don't feel comfortable with it. I bought it for me." "How old are you?" the woman said with a huff, retracting her hand and slapping it in her lap. "I'm 25, but I don't see how that matters," I replied, growing exceptionally uncomfortable. "Well," she began, clearly sounding agitated. "My son is 8. This is an hour and 45-minute flight, and he just wants something to do. He can't see it for a few minutes." "No, I'm not comfortable with that. I'm sorry, but I'm expecting you to understand since this is my property." I put my head down and I unpaused my game as to ignore anything else that she had to say. "Are you serious?" She seemed genuinely livid. "Well, son, sorry buddy. Not everyone knows how to share," the woman said to her kid who was next to her. Her kid started whining and kicking the seat in front of him. "Thanks for this," she said to me. "A sweet kid just wants to share with you, and you're being ignorant about it." Before I even opened my mouth, one of the ladies in my row snapped back at her. "How dare you bring that energy on this plane? She told you so kindly that she doesn't feel comfortable with passing her electronics to a stranger." The mother wasn't having it. "She's an adult and can't share with a kid for a few minutes of a nearly 2-hour flight." "You should have brought something for him to do then," the woman in my row responded. It shut her up good. At the end of the flight, the woman collected her luggage from the overhead bins and said, "I hope you're happy going against God's word, not sharing with a kid." Some of the people around us giggled. I'm sure they all overheard the drama at the beginning of the flight. I've come across some entitled people in my life, but this strange lady took the cake. The perfect comeback at baggage would have been to ask the chapter and verse where this was going against God's word. Well, what would you do in this situation? Would you have let the kid borrow your Nintendo Switch or not? Please let us know. "When someone keeps bugging me to borrow something, I just cough and sneeze all over it. Then I ask if they still want it. Works every time." Am I the jerk for making my boyfriend cry after I corrected him in front of his family? Hi. So my boyfriend, who's 22, and I, 22 female, have been having a really rocky few weeks. I started a new job, and I work with kids, and I'm exhausted when I come home from work, so I normally do homework and then game for a little. My boyfriend has been on this thing about how I never help out at the apartment or with the dog, which is fair. I definitely don't clean as much as I should, but I probably pick up the kitchen twice a week and let the dog out once a day. I always make sure his food and water dishes are full. I work 11-hour shifts, by the way, and I get up at 5 a.m. He doesn't work and plays video games literally all day long. He doesn't wake up until 11, and then he's on when I get home, and he's sure on when I go to bed. We just got back from his family dinner, and he was complaining to his mom about how he didn't know getting a girlfriend meant adopting a kid, my dog, and he was tired of looking after my dog. I told him it's funny he says he takes care of him when his food and water bowl were empty when I left and empty when I came home, and the dog ate and drank like his life depended on it. He said he fed him, but he definitely didn't. Then he said that he does a lot of other things, and I said, like what? Walk him? Take him to the bathroom? Because he has accidents all the time, but never on the weekend when I'm home. He started stammering and saying he did a lot with the house, and I sort of just snapped and told him I could see him on games for 12 hours a day while I worked to provide for us. He didn't say anything, just got up and left. His mom said she was sorry, and if I needed help to let her know. His dad said I'm being too hard on him, and I'm going to drive him away. Edit. I'm not saying he didn't deserve it. I think I'm a jerk because of the harshness and environment this conversation happened in. I heard him crying, and he's complete stonewalling me, and I feel really guilty about embarrassing him in front of his parents. Edit 2. Please stop saying my dog needs to be rehomed. I normally put water in his dish in the mornings and food, just not today because I was running late. My issue is with my boyfriend claiming to do things that I do or he just doesn't do. I walk the dog after work, I run him hard on the weekends, he gets playtime and he's healthy. I promise the dog is happy. He didn't have food for one day, and my boyfriend happened to comment on how hard it was to take care of a dog, so I called him out for not even feeding him the one day I missed it. Not the jerk. Why make the effort to drive him away? End the relationship now and hire a dog walker. Karen coworker demands I do her job for her. I, 22 male, and this coworker just recently got hired as first-time zookeepers in the past couple of months. She seemed nice enough when I met her, and we didn't talk a whole lot as our work didn't overlap. She's being trained on small mammals, whereas I'm a swing keeper, basically a junior keeper who fills in as an assistant as needed. But a couple of weeks ago, she told me that she needs help cleaning the otters' dens and wants me to do it every single day for the foreseeable future instead of her, which, from my limited experience in that enclosure, was not news I was thrilled to hear. I asked her why I'd need to do it every day, since that's part of her job. She told me that she's pregnant and the smell in there is making her sick. I said, "They're otters. That smell makes everyone feel sick." But she insisted. I said no. Why should I have to spend half an hour in there every single day on top of everything else I already have to do? But she got mad and I reluctantly gave it a go that day. It was a miserable 30 minutes. The next day, she insisted again, but I put my foot down. I told her I hate the otter smell too, and I had other things to do besides do her job for her. I said I'd be willing to help with the cleaning for any other small animals, but not the otters. But she insisted I help with the otters and said I was being insensitive to her needs. In the end, we got in a bit of a fight and our supervisor got involved and basically took her side and asked me if I could spare some time each day to clean the otter dens, and that this was part of giving reasonable accommodation for her pregnancy, which I just didn't think was fair. And now the coworker won't speak to me. Am I the jerk? Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or his coworker? Please let us know. Please do leave a comment. I can't wait to read them. Am I the jerk for not going to Easter because it's always all about the kids? I'm 26, 2 kids, and 4 out of 5 sisters have kids, with the exception of Serena, who is a travel the world with a knapsack kind of gal. I love my family, but every single family outing, get-together, every dinner, lunch, everything has to be family-friendly and kid-centric. I can never get my sisters, other than Serena, when she's even in town, to go to a movie, have lunch, sit and chat without it being all about the kids. Even if the kids are having a kid playtime with each other and the adults are sitting around drinking coffee, the conversations are about the kids. Kids are called over to talk to us, etc., etc. Before lockdown, I asked my sister Julie to come over with me to get our nails done and just have some us time. She changed her mind last minute and said she was bringing her daughter as a bonding activity. We do nothing but bonding activities, and the same thing has happened time and time again. Shopping? The kids need to come. Taking a hike? All on board. I expressed my frustration, and she acted like I was being super out of line, shocked, and went on about how she can't imagine doing things without her mini-me, and that it was weird. It became a whole, "Are you okay? Are you sure? Are you depressed?" thing. The requisite Zoom family things were all about the kids with no adult time. So when we were talking about getting together for Easter, I thought, hey, maybe they'll want to catch up. I asked during a planning call, do you think we can maybe just have some time for the adults when the kids are playing so we can all catch up? My mom and sisters acted like it was the most ridiculous ask. Mom did the, "Are you okay?" and "I can't imagine wanting to spend time with my family and exclude you girls from any part of it. That's not normal." I said that I really can't sit through another kid-centric get-together, and that if we aren't going to at least do something and sit down and have cake and coffee together and catch up, just the family, then count me out. Well, they went through with it, and I ended up sending the girls over and staying home and having a great time, just me and Serena. She said that she understands how I feel, and she stands with me, because they exclude her as well since she doesn't have kids and has been clear that she never will. Of course, she and I are being talked down to and told that we're jerks to treat family like that we should have all been together as a family, and that it's time to grow up and accept that it'll never just be the sisters again. I cried about this a lot. Am I really wrong here? Is this normal and I just need to accept never seeing my other sisters one-on-one without their kids being the focus of everything? Guys, just a couple of points because it keeps coming up. I didn't ask for a kid-free Easter at all. I asked for some time for the adults to drink coffee and catch up with each other while the kids were playing. And I have friends, but family and friends are different. Well, who do you agree with? OP or the rest of their family? Please let us know. For lots of people, once they have kids, their kids become the center of their life and everything else revolves around them. It's kind of just the life they choose to live. Try not to get too upset over it. Work is 8 to 4 only. Not me, but my coworker, and I am super proud of them. The past few years, I've been putting up firm boundaries with work after being done over a few times, including not being expected to answer emails or do assignments evenings and weekends. It's taken a long time, but I've learned my worth and that my time is valuable. Our company has about 200 employees, but I work most closely with one other person who I've been encouraging to do the same. We were all put on remote work since last March, and recently the building opened again, with the exception that we would start back in person. I'll give props to them. They've done a ton of work to get the building cleaned, the air filters updated, enforcing masking, etc. However, HR at first talked a lot about how they would be willing to be flexible, since most schools are still closed and people needed childcare worked out, and that they would grant accommodations with people who had health concerns. Yet, that didn't actually play out. In my situation, I had a unique childcare concern that had a simple solution, but they refused to budge. Long story short, I needed to start 30 minutes later and was told no. Several other coworkers have shared similar stories of not getting any flexibility whatsoever. My coworker has several health issues and requested to work on an alternate schedule and was told, "The job is 8 to 4, so that's when you must be here." Understandably, they were upset. We've both been there well over a decade, and it's kind of a slap in the face to dedicate yourself to a place that talks up community and family, and then told no after being promised flexibility. Here's the malicious compliance. The company handles missed time by covering in-house. So for instance, if someone has a meeting at a certain time or calls in sick, someone who has a break or lunch covers them and gets paid a little stipend for it. We're talking like $20, not much. But if you take a few extras over a week, it can add up to a nice little bit in your pay. My coworker coordinates all of this and does it on Sunday for the upcoming week. Even though they don't work on Sunday, they would say it only takes about an hour to do, and it makes everyone's life so much easier since everyone walks in Monday morning knowing who is covering when, so it's worth it. Can you see where this is going? Upset at the lack of accommodation, my coworker decided to take HR's word for it. They stopped sending the coverage email on the weekend and did it at 8 sharp on Monday. It was like the end of the world. Everyone was scrambling. Such a little thing to make life convenient, but they refuse now to do anything outside of work hours. They told me that the following weekend, managers were asking for it throughout Saturday and Sunday, but they ignored the emails. On Monday, they sent it at 8 a.m. sharp again. By the afternoon, the head boss had asked them to please resume doing it on the weekend, and they are now getting the extra hour paid by the company. I loved it. Take care of your employees, and they take care of you. Give a little, get a little. Here's some info asked about in the comments. 1. My coworker doesn't have a disability, but is nearing retirement age and has some minor medical concerns that could make getting sick very complicated. 2. From what I understand, they requested to continue remotely, and I'm not surprised that was denied. While their role could be done at home, with people back in the building, it wouldn't make much sense. They do a lot of the front office stuff, where my role is more in the background. I could do my job no problem going in only once a week, but their role really does need to be on site while people are there. I believe they had asked to do some days at home or half days at home. That would work if HR had let them. 3. It seems from what I have gathered, only 2 people were granted remote accommodations. One person I know has some complicated medical issues, so that made sense to me. Most people asking for flexibility have roles that, like mine, don't necessitate being on site. I was told that my requested accommodation would be unfair because everyone needs to be treated equally, and I get that. Except most work with clients, and I don't. My role is completely internal support. There are others like me who do back-end stuff or support in other ways who were denied what I consider minor accommodations in the spirit of fairness, but would make life a million times easier. Am I the jerk for excluding my brother's kids from some family events? Context. I come from a large family, and it's considered really normal to help out or ask for help, and we often watch each other's kids, pick things up for each other, run errands, etc. I would describe us as laid back and generally low conflict. If people have an issue with something someone does, we usually address it with them privately so as to not embarrass them. The problem. One of my brothers is married to my sister-in-law, and they have kids, all under the age of 7. Sister-in-law has really specific ideas about parenting and what her kids should be allowed to do. She expects us to abide by her rules when her kids are at other family members' houses with the rest of the cousins. If the rules aren't followed, she doesn't say anything directly, but instead sends an email to the person with clear instructions on what they did wrong. The emails read like something from a boss. This happened a number of times over the years, but an event that happened last fall caused the current issues. During lockdown, my mom has been babysitting the kids in our pod during the day and helping them with virtual school. Often, there are 5+ kids there at a time. One of sister-in-law's rules is that her kids cannot have any food with dyes in it. No allergy, it's a general health thing. My mom forgot and gave one of her kids a popsicle during the day because everyone else was having one. The kid was eating it when sister-in-law picked them up, and while she didn't say anything at the time, it was clear she was upset. My mom then received an email that began, our recent discussion. It was my understanding that you understood that my kid cannot have food with dyes in it. It then contained bullet points suggesting how she could improve. My mother was really insulted. In addition, sister-in-law CC'd my dad. He went to their house to speak with them, and sister-in-law apologized for her communication style, but pushed back on the dye thing and wanted an apology from my mom. My mom apologized, but also no longer watches their kids regularly, by her own choice. Ever since that happened, everyone is pretty cautious around them and their kids. If we're doing something that might violate her rules, we don't invite them. This is honestly most things we do, because the stuff she bans, exposure to any form of violence, refined sugars, dyes, yelling, playground equipment above 5 feet, etc. are not things we have issues with, within reason, with our own kids. Recently, my brother asked me and my other siblings about it, and we were honest. We feel like we're walking on eggshells around them. He says she communicates about serious topics through email because of her anxiety disorder. He defends her behavior as mama bear tendencies and thinks we can slowly help her by being patient. We refused. Are we the jerks for excluding my nieces and nephews? When we have big family get-togethers again, they will always be invited, but not always for other stuff. Edit. Also, just to say, my sister-in-law is often really fun and pleasant. It's really just the parenting issues that she's so controlling about. We never had issues with her before they had kids. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or sister-in-law? Please let us know.
Those poor babies are gonna miss out on a lot in life if their mama doesn't stop acting like that. And tell Papa he's just as guilty as long as he lets that crap go on. Seriously though, my heart goes out to those kids.
Stop working so hard? Don't mind if I do. This is ongoing, so keeping things vague. The background. I work in a corporate setting on a mixed team. The team is made up of a few different roles, each with their own reporting structure. I'm the only person reporting up to my manager on the team. I'm pretty much on my own for the day-to-day. The story. For the first half of last year, I worked for senior manager, that will be his name, on a mixed team. Some people on that team were rock stars, others were not. I've always been a go-getter, perfectionist kind of person. So on that team, I didn't let things slip through the cracks, which meant that sometimes, often, I did things beyond my specific role. Halfway through last year, I moved to a new team and thus reported to awesome manager for the second half. Again, I'm the only one for my role on this new team. Cue the new year, and with it, performance reviews. This is the one time outside of promotion that you can get a raise. I've busted my butt on the new team, and everyone I work with has shown appreciation. And this company actually did well last year, so funds are not a problem. Awesome Manager is the one conducting my review, and they asked Senior Manager for feedback since I did report to him for the first half. Awesome Manager says I'm doing an amazing job, keep it up. Here are some suggestions. A Senior VP of the company loves showing off something I made. Senior Manager's notes say to not pick up every piece. Allow others to fail sometimes so that they can grow and learn and better themselves. Then Awesome Manager informs me that the average rage percentage is 3%. Awesome Manager tells me they recommended I get a 4% raise. They then tell me that all of the senior managers met for the whole organization to coordinate, and coming out of that meeting, I am getting 3%. Awesome Manager cannot get a straight answer why my raise was decreased. So since Senior Manager was part of that meeting where they cut down my raise, I'm following his direction. Take on less. I've cut back to okay employee work ethic and am letting others fail and grow. Since I'm alone on my role for the team, an awesome manager just got moved elsewhere, I have another new manager, no one can call me out. In the meantime, I'm spending that extra energy prepping my resume for more reasons than just this. A couple of clarifications. Yes, the average raise really just keeps up with inflation. Awesome Manager did not promise me the higher percentage. They explained the whole story in that same meeting, basically giving me a peek behind the curtain. And I don't think Senior Manager was malicious, he just didn't fight hard enough for me, and he's the one that did have a say. Am I the jerk for not wanting to house my sister's fiancé? My sister, 27 female, has been with her fiancé, Dale, for 3 years. My family and myself, 28 male, absolutely cannot stand him. From day one, he was just this rude, obnoxious slob, and we don't have a clue what she sees in this guy. He's 30 and can't hold down a job for anything. Either he quits because he doesn't like it, or he gets fired after many absences. We're embarrassed to even go out to a restaurant with him because he will throw a fit over something in his food to try to get a free meal. I try to avoid interactions with him when I can because I can't stand him. With the lockdown, my sister got laid off, and they moved in with a friend a few months ago to save up on money. Especially because they found out my sister is pregnant 3 months ago. Now my sister tells me Dale and his friend got into some dispute, so they can't live there anymore. She's asking if it's okay if they stayed with me for a while, but I don't think that's going to happen. Aside from Dale being a jerk in general, I've heard he's an even bigger pain to live with. Before the lockdown, there was a whole drama with the landlord at his old place. Dale stopped paying rent and then was refusing to leave, even after being given an eviction notice. No idea how it went down, but he managed to stay there longer until the landlord could go through the whole court process to get him out. My sister told me all about it because she was having fights with Dale trying to get him to just leave already. The last thing I want is to invite that possible headache into my home knowing what a freeloader he is. Might even be harder right now if I decided I didn't want him in my house anymore, with some places still putting evictions on hold. I told my sister my concerns. She swears Dale wouldn't do that, but she couldn't even convince him to move out of the last place he was staying at. Now, I get she's pregnant, and I told her I'd be more than happy to give her a place to stay, just not Dale. She's pretty mad I'm not willing to help him out as well, and for not trusting them. They're supposed to be moving out by next week with still no place to go. I told my sister my offer still stands for her, but I can't accept Dale with his history. She says I'm an awful brother and can't believe how badly I'm acting in their time of need. Am I being a jerk for going down this route? Well, what would you do in this situation? Would you let them come stay at your house or not? Please let us know.
No way. I would offer them directions to the nearest Motel 6. I've heard they leave the lights on for you.
I got a male Karen, a Chad, arrested. I, 20 female, run a retail store with only one other person, another 20-year-old female, and some guy comes in and cussed at her. Literally, the first thing he said to her was, "Forget you." I took over and told the man, somewhere in his 50s, we wouldn't help him if he was going to talk to us like that. He made fun of me for telling him he couldn't swear, and I just ignored him and gave him the solution to the problem he was coming in about. I watched him run outside to his truck, check his backseat multiple times, important to remember, and after about 15 to 20 minutes, he came back in. He sat down and just glared at me. My coworker was helping someone else. I asked him what he needed. He said he'd tell me after our only other customer left. I told him he could tell me now. He stood up and said, "I will leave when she leaves." I responded saying, "Listen, I've been nothing but pleasant with you, and your entire time of being here you've been incredibly hostile. I'm giving you two options. You can either talk to me right now so I can try to help you, or you can leave. Because at this point, what you're doing, sitting down and saying nothing, is loitering." He was angry. He got right up in my face to intimidate me and gave me the most evil look I'd ever received. I stared right back at him. "What is it going to be?" He broke eye contact and said, "I'll leave." He walked out the door, but he did not leave. He sat in the front of his truck and kept looking through our window at us, waiting for our only customer to leave. I pointed this out to both my coworker and the customer, an older woman. The older woman told me to call the cops immediately and that the man was not mentally sound. I was hesitant, but she was right. I called the cops, but in the meantime, the man kept checking his back seat over and over again. When the cops arrived, they said hi to me first and then went outside to speak to the man. After about 5 minutes, I saw Mr. Karen trying to fight the cops. One of them later came back in and told me the situation. "So, he's going to jail tonight. There was something in the back seat of his truck that he's going to jail for. He was actually a wanted man. Are you all good here? One of us can stay here if you don't feel safe." I told him that we were fine. He had me write up a witness report. Makes me wonder what was in the back of this guy's truck. Am I the jerk for not letting my boyfriend drive my dad's Ferrari? My dad is wealthy. Not like mega rich billionaire wealthy, but pretty darn wealthy. My dad owns this Ferrari V12 supercar that he loves. He takes it out to drive a few times a month when he can, and usually likes to take it to a local track. He's very protective of that car and doesn't want anyone driving it. He let me drive it once at his track, and I had like a race car driver instructor with me. But honestly, I'm sort of afraid of it. It's really powerful and just more car than I can handle. Anyways, I'm dating this dude, and he saw my dad's car when he was over, and he asked me if he could drive it. I told him he would have to ask my dad because it's not mine, and that I don't think he would want to let him drive it because my dad doesn't really want anyone driving it. Anyways, he left it alone. He brought it up to my dad later, but my dad said no. My dad said he let me drive it once at a track with a race car driver in the passenger seat, and that he just doesn't trust anyone else to drive it. So my dad went out of town, and now my boyfriend is asking me to let him drive the car while my dad is gone. He keeps asking me where the keys are, and can he just take it for a spin, and I keep telling him no, and it's making me uncomfortable. He keeps asking. Finally, he got mad at me and started calling me names and said I should be supportive of him, that I should understand he doesn't have a rich family and will probably never have this opportunity again, and that if I loved him, I would do this for him. I don't know. I get that he doesn't really have another opportunity to drive this car, but like, it's just a car, and my dad would be really upset if I let him. Am I the jerk? I believe I might be the jerk because my boyfriend can't afford a car like this on his own, and I feel bad that I'm denying the opportunity to drive one, which is something he really wants, and I am denying his dream. Edit. So that people know, I did take the keys and put them in my dad's safe about 30-ish minutes after this post went up. A lot of people have mentioned he doesn't see a long-term relationship with me because he said, "This is the only chance I'll get." I honestly didn't register that, but yeah, it's got me thinking. Well, what would you do in this situation? Would you let him drive the car or not? Please let us know.
OP, you need to break up with this guy. He sounds like a manipulative little entitled jerk. Kinda reminds me of myself before I went to that Karen's retreat.
Am I the jerk for not supporting my daughter and grandchild? My husband, 51 male, and I, 49 female, have a daughter who's 21, Amanda. We plan for our children's future with a college fund and a small amount of money to get them started. As a teacher, I've always believed that college is not always for everyone and did not want to force this if our kids were not interested. We also let them know that this money was not their money, but ours, and we would not be using it so they could just live. We raised our kids to be responsible for their actions and the consequences of said actions, which brings us to the issue. About 2 years ago, while at college, Amanda met a guy, Tony, who was 24. Tony was not a student, but he lived in the college town. We met him a few times and were not impressed by him or his life goals. She and I are close, and a few times over the course of the relationship, she mentioned issues that were red flags to me. When she asked for advice, I was honest, and if she told me to back off, I would. When lockdown classes went virtual, so dorms closed, Tony invited her to move in with him and his family. We would have rather she had come home. In the summer, Tony suggested that they move in with us because his family had taken our daughter in for 3 months. I should probably mention that our home is a few blocks from the ocean and a couple of towns from a popular summer hangout. We told our daughter she could come home, but not Tony. Tony was very upset by this and said if she came without him, it was over. She ended up staying with him and found out she was pregnant last July. She and Tony arrived with a plan. The plan was basically us supporting them as they would be raising our grandchild. We rejected this plan, and I was able to get my daughter alone. I explained the reality of what her life would look like with Tony and their child. I let her know that while we would still pay for college, we would not pay for a place to live, childcare, Tony, baby expenses, etc. I also let her know that while she could always visit, she could not return home full-time with a baby as we are nearing retirement and a baby is just not part of that plan. We talked about options and I let her know that she was free to do what was right for her and Tony, but that they should not plan on any support from us beyond what a grandparent would do. She talked to him and went ahead with the pregnancy. Amanda has always understood that her actions are her responsibility, but Tony has not seemed to grasp the concept. He asks weekly for favors and help that we already said we would not do. Tony's family thinks we are the jerks for not providing more help, and his mother thinks that we are punishing them for not doing things the right way. Most of my family thinks we are right because Amanda and Tony knew what we would provide before moving forward with the pregnancy, and if they were not in the position to have a child, then they shouldn't have had one. Well, what do you think? Is OP a jerk or not? Please let us know.
Actions always have consequences. Let this be a lesson to always stay away from people like Tony. Also, don't be like him.
Am I the jerk for telling my father that my ex wouldn't give me my bracelet back? My ex, 19 male, and I, 18 female, broke up last Wednesday after 6 months. It was very abrupt, and he never fully explained why, other than saying he forgave me. I tried the best I could with my emotional control issues to make sure the relationship was healthy, but it was hard because I was his first love and he didn't know how to communicate properly. He messaged me on Saturday saying he was sorry for ignoring me, and I started asking him questions about what happened and how he could already be over me. He refused to answer and just kept telling me he didn't love me. I asked for my bracelet back and he told me he would give it back soon. I asked more questions, which I now realized made him uncomfortable. But instead of telling me this, he just blocked me once more. I didn't want to just move on because I've had the bracelet since I was 12, so I messaged his brother and he talked to him for me. He messaged me 3 hours later. We arranged to meet today, but last night he said his family was sick, so I couldn't come over, and that we should reschedule. I understood and asked when we could meet up, and that I didn't even have to come over. It was late, so he said we could talk about it in the morning. I woke up to a message from him saying he didn't want to see me and that he didn't think he should give back the bracelet because I gave it to him as a way of me always being with him and he didn't want me to vanish from his life. I tried to contact him, but I had no luck and started to have a panic attack because of how important the bracelet was to me. I got it from my nan, who recently passed, for my 12th birthday. My dad got home when I was having my panic attack, so I told him everything. He got my ex's number from my phone and called him. He told him to give the bracelet back or he would call the police. I thought calling the police was an overreaction. My ex messaged me saying he would give it back and we agreed to meet up tomorrow. I feel like I never should have told my father and I didn't want to cause trouble for him. I just wanted my bracelet back. Am I the jerk for telling my dad my ex wouldn't give me my bracelet back? Edit. I forgot to mention I gave it to him temporarily while we were together. He said he would be sure to give it back if we broke up. Well, what do you think? Was OP the jerk for telling her dad or not? Please let us know.
Of course not. That's what dads are for. If you get mixed up with a psycho, part of dad's job is making things right. By the way, where did you meet that boyfriend? The guy sounds like he needs to be locked up somewhere.
Karen harasses me in my own home and makes a fool of herself. I live in a ground floor apartment in the middle of my little town with a small courtyard at the back. There's a lovely set of glass sliding doors that open from the living room into said courtyard, and on the other side of the courtyard fence is the public footpath, with a public car park behind it. It's lunchtime here at the moment, so there's a person walking past every 5 minutes or so. It's also useful to know for context that I'm physically disabled and use a walking stick. My genetic disorder, Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, also makes me look significantly younger than I am. So despite being 31 years old, I'm often mistaken for a teenager, especially by Karens, for whom I seem to be a magnet. Anyway, onto the story. So I was sitting on my sofa, watching TV and eating my lunch, when I spotted one of those little black millipedes on the carpet. We get a lot of them at this time of the year, so I used an empty box to scoop it up and chuck it over the fence, so that it hopefully won't come back into the apartment. No big deal, right? There was this Karen walking along the footpath, a fair way down from our fence, and she yelled something like,
I saw what you just did.
I didn't think she was barking at me, since I hadn't done anything wrong or unusual, so I went back inside. She then appeared at our back gate, shouting at me for
throwing rubbish over the fence and littering.
I told her I had thrown a millipede over the fence that I'd found on the carpet. She accused me of lying and said she had seen me throw a box. I opened the fly screen and held up the empty box and said, "You mean this one?" She froze and stammered a bit before saying,
Well, obviously, you threw something else then.
Like I was being the idiot here. I said, "Then where is it?" And this lady actually started scouring the flower bed between the footpath and the car park for the imaginary rubbish she was adamant I'd thrown. I guess she found nothing she could reasonably accuse me of having thrown out there, because she came back to the fence and barked,
If I ever catch you littering again, missy, you'll be dealing with the police.
So I said, "Sure, I'd love to tell them about you harassing a disabled woman in her own home. We'll see how that goes for you." And she stormed off. What the heck? I get dealing with Karens in the wild, but in my own home? Wish I'd thought to snap a photo of her just in case. Hindsight is 2020. Karen roommate demands I do her taxes. My roommate, 29 female, and I, also 29 female, have been living together for 9 years. This whole time, I filed her taxes every year until last year. Every year, she'd hand me her W-2, social security card, and ID, and I'd go to my sister's place to file her taxes online. I get my sister's help because I'm dyslexic and don't want to accidentally mix up any numbers while filing. I would always ask my roommate if she wanted to go with us, and she would refuse, choosing to stay home and watch shows instead. Whenever my sister helps me with taxes, I treat her out for lunch as a thank you, whether this is going to a restaurant, fast food, or getting delivery of her choice. This is where my frustration with my roommate comes in. She would never go with me to file her taxes, saying that she trusted me. I'd take screenshots of everything to show her what was filed, how much she would get, etc. When she'd get her tax return, she'd accuse me of stealing some of it, though I could always prove that I didn't. She never pitched in any money toward treating my sister out for lunch as thanks for help, but would also get mad if we didn't bring back food for her. So last year, I told her that I wasn't going to do her taxes anymore. She whined about not knowing how to do it and being too anxious to go to a professional. I told her that she should have been more involved before, and I don't want to do everything for her. She never went to a professional to get her taxes done and didn't do it herself. She didn't file at all last year. This year, she asked me to do her taxes and I refused. She started crying and said that I'm ruining everything by not helping her. She complained to her friends at work about this, who all told me that I'm being unnecessarily mean and I should help her out because she clearly isn't responsible enough to do this on her own. They told me that she's still young and shouldn't have to worry about it so much, but she and I are literally only 3 months apart in age. She has not filed yet this year, and I'm being told that I'm the jerk for not helping her because she's too anxious to get her taxes done professionally and too insecure to do it herself. At this rate, she may not file this year too, and only my sister is on my side in this. I have really bad social anxiety about seeing a professional, and that's partially why I do my taxes myself with my sister's help. So I understand being anxious, but am I really the jerk for not helping her? Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or her roommate? Please let us know.
I hope you're able to find a new roommate, OP. One who hopefully you won't have to babysit.
Am I the jerk for kicking out my pregnant sister? I am absolutely furious about this right now. My sister is 19 and 4 months pregnant. Father bailed and kicked her out of his place as soon as she told him, and my parents live on the other side of the country. She goes to school here in our state, so she doesn't want to move back to our tiny little town. Since she didn't have a place to stay, my wife and I offered to let her live with us until after the baby got here. It wasn't ideal, but we have the room and the money to let it happen. First thing I told my sister when she came here was, whatever you need, tell me and I'll help you. First thing I told her, because I didn't want her worrying about things for the baby or food. We still have all of our baby furniture and toys and clothes from when our son was born in our garage and in good condition. It's barely been over 2 months, and on the first week, my wife was complaining because she couldn't find her earrings. Didn't think anything, stuff like that is easy to lose sometimes. But then it started to add up. First her earrings, then one of my watches, a necklace, a pair of new shoes that we bought for our son, some of my wife's jewelry, my class ring. All this stuff was going missing, and it didn't click for me until I noticed a few missing $20 bills from my wallet. At first, I thought maybe it was my son, but honestly, the kid's 7 and still too honest. He cried once after he took an extra donut from the table and confessed immediately, so I doubted he was the culprit. I confronted my sister, and it took a lot of grilling before she fessed up. Her defense was she just wanted to make a little extra cash on the side for the baby. I was so furious with her. After telling her to come to me for anything she needs with the baby, she resorted to going behind my back and stealing from my family. I explained just how wrong she was to do this after she's had a roof over her head, food, and being told to come to us with whatever she needs help with. She apologized many times, but I told her she was going to have to pack her bags and leave. I'll give her 2 weeks to find a new place, but she better be gone by then. This just upset my sister more. She begged me to give her a second chance, but I feel like the trust has been broken. She wanted to stay here to continue school, and she'll have to find a way to support herself. If she can't, then she can move back with our parents. Speaking of parents, they've been on top of me for the last few days over this, and I can't just kick her out when she has a child on the way. I've explained what she was doing, however. They still think that I'm wrong and I need to give her another chance. The issue is, how will I know she won't be more sneaky about it? It's just not a risk I'm willing to take, and my wife is just as upset about this as I am. This hasn't stopped my parents from berating me all the time over our choice, and now I'm not sure if I'm being the jerk or if I should give her another chance. Well, what would you do in this situation? Would you give your sister another chance or not? Please let us know.
I'd call the police on her, to be honest.
My brother is so entitled, he almost made me homeless. In 2016, my brother had an unexpected divorce and filed for bankruptcy, although he left his house out of it. It shouldn't have come as too much of a surprise though, since the reason she left was because he had cheated on her when she was pregnant with their second kid, and although she tried a while longer, she understandably couldn't get past it. My mom paid for his bankruptcy and gave him at least $1,000 a month to help him make ends meet. This was the equivalent of his house payment. I know the amount is correct because my mom has bad eyesight, and my husband and I have to help her manage her finances so we could see exactly how much she was giving him. I never said a word because it's her money to do with as she wishes. I should add some backstory too to show his history of entitlement. My mom received a $100,000 bonus when she retired, and he told her he was starting a business and needed $20,000. So although he had no business plan, etc., she gave it to him and he bought a truck. That was the extent of the business. He also helped her renovate her house with the remaining money, and that consisted of literally gutting it, taking up the flooring so it was only a concrete slab, ripping out her entire kitchen, taking down walls, etc. He even rented a backhoe to dig a koi pond that remained a big hole in her yard. He's known to start projects and never finish them, and this was another example. Of course, the money ran out, and she had to live like that for several years until she finally just let it go into foreclosure. She has co-signed so many car and personal loans for him, and he has often walked away from those too, leaving her to pay off the debt. In comparison, my mom co-signed my first car loan, and that is the only thing ever, and I didn't ask for or receive any of her bonus money. She used to live with him and his family and cooked, cleaned, and kept the kids, and he still charged her to store stuff in the 800 square foot storage building in the backyard. He's supposed to be paying her $300 a month to pay her back for all the money she gave him after his divorce, but he refuses because he said she might give it to her granddaughter. And what if she does? Anyway, in 2017, my brother asked me and my family to move from out of state to become roommates with him to allow him to get back on his feet. And it would allow me to save more money too, to reach my financial goal of getting into real estate investing. I was leery about the idea, but he was begging, and I hated my mom was still having to give him so much money, since she only had a retirement and Social Security, and he was taking a huge chunk of it. The house was a reno, because true to form, he had started various projects that had never been finished, and he had never done any repairs. For example, his 2-year-old daughter had accidentally locked herself in her room, so instead of taking off the doorknob, he kicked the door in and broke the frame, so it was still like that. We signed a rental agreement and agreed to include that if he decided to sell the house, he would allow us to assume his loan, and we would pay him $14,000 in equity. As an FYI, he had bought the house in 2013 and didn't have a lot of equity in it. In 2018, and 9 months into the lease, he lost his job and decided to move out of town to be with his girlfriend, now wife, who owned her own house. He didn't have the funds to fix up his house and wanted to be rid of it, so he agreed that we could assume his loan. We weren't anticipating it to happen quite so soon, and I asked if we could wait until 2019 to allow us some time to raise my husband's credit score, and I also wanted to be on my job for 2 years. He agreed, and we paid him the $14,000. We had another contract that outlined our agreement, which included that we were responsible for everything regarding the house, all major and minor repairs, upkeep, etc. We would pay the closing costs, and that we were also going to begin the reno, because it was depressing to continue to live in a house in such need of repair. We completed the entire reno that included all new flooring, entire interior repainted, entire new kitchen, cabinets, backsplash, quartz counters, appliances, etc. New exterior doors, lighting, the works. We viewed this as our first real estate investment, and I had no reason not to trust my own brother. This was a fantastic opportunity for us because the reno and assumption meant we would have a good bit of equity in the home, and this was basically part of our retirement plan. Side note, my brother is 9 years younger than I am, in good health, started his own business after he lost his job, and his business is low overhead and did $272,000 last year, and his wife is a teacher. I am middle-aged, my husband is a senior, and he had a stroke 10 years ago after 2 years of marriage that left him paralyzed on his left side and is in a wheelchair with DVT and blood flow issues, and I'm also raising 3 grandchildren. This home really is literally our main retirement plan. So anyway, we got started on the assumption paperwork the end of 2019 as soon as I had 2 years on my job, and we were almost finished with it when lockdown struck. I happened to be changing jobs too, a dream position that fell in my lap, and it was going to pay $13,000 more a year. And so it came out that I was changing jobs and the bank stopped the process. My brother was irritated, but seemed to understand. My job is in the tourism industry, so it was one of the first and hardest hit industries. His business has thrived during lockdown, and my new job cut my hours way back. He agreed to wait a bit longer to start the process again, but as soon as we got the paperwork the second time, I was furloughed for the winter. I should add that we had to submit our lease purchase agreement with the assumption paperwork, but since he lives out of town, he asked me to sign his name, and it is now expired, so we are not currently under an official agreement. I just found out this week they're bringing me back full-time, so I let him know the good news and asked him to please call for the paperwork. Now he says he's tired of dealing with this, so he's going to hire a realtor to sell the house, and get this, he thinks he is going to keep half of the profits. In addition to the $14,000 we've given him, the cost to renovate the home, and the $1,000 a month we've paid straight to the mortgage company for 36 months, $36,000, we've also done all maintenance to include stuff like trees trimmed, the house pressure washed, a roof leak, septic pumped, etc. He has never paid a dime since he left, and I have never even asked. I treated the house as though it were ours because it was supposed to be. We've never paid a single bill late, even though we live off of my husband's Social Security and lately my unemployment, and he's acting indignant as though I've done him over. I honestly never look for sympathy due to my husband's issues, etc., but this would cause a severe undue hardship, and he has shown no empathy whatsoever. On top of that, we really needed the house in our name because we were going to do a HELOC to enclose the garage because our mom is starting to have additional medical issues, so we were planning for her to come live with us later this year. If he sells this out from under us, we would literally be about homeless because we can't afford to rent in our area. We would not have any funds left to save, and the housing prices have gone beyond what we would probably be approved for. It's not easy to quickly or slowly find a wheelchair-accessible house to buy or rent, and part of our renovations helped with that, like creating a walk-in shower. Although one reason we moved here is because my granddaughters often had to change schools when they were with their mom, and I promised them that we would stay put so they could put down roots and make friends. We found out that they were going to be living with us as he was begging us to move here, so it made sense financially and was a great school district. My oldest two granddaughters are in high school and would most likely have to change, which breaks my heart. We would not even have any equity in a new home, and we would not be able to create space for my mom either. And with the equity we would have in our current one, it opened the door to various options to help fund our retirement, pay it off and do a reverse mortgage, use equity for an income property, buy another primary residence with 3.5% down and use this one as a rental, pay off student loans, etc. We had also planned to start a side hustle home-based business using the big storage building we have here. This has left me feeling basically gutted. It's broken my heart and soul because I was an only child for 9 years and used to always beg for a sibling. I was elated when he came along, and his birthday is one day before mine, so it was like he was my birthday present. Growing up, my friends would often say they wished they had their sibling treat them how I treated him, and even though we had nearly a decade between us, I have always tried to keep a close relationship with him and his kids, and I just can't believe he's acting this entitled. I've never been a vengeful person, but I honestly feel I would take the house back to what it looked like previously before I let him make a penny off of our hard work and sacrifices. I know some money is better than none, and it would be a big setback, but I can't help but feel like it's all or nothing. And as an FYI, I have an appointment with a lawyer, but I'm sick it's come to this. No matter what happens now, in a way, I really have lost my brother. But who needs someone that entitled in their life anyway? Again, thank you for taking the time to read what has become a novella. Please put good thoughts into the universe that he will have a change of heart and stick to our original agreement. I must check for any place a person can hide during a fire drill? Okay. I worked in a building where I was a fire marshal. No extra money and a small amount of extra work, but someone has to do it. I was also first aider and somehow got landed with arranging the Christmas night out, so maybe the building manager saw me as an easy mark. The only advantage that I had was during a drill or real event, I had absolute power. Anyone not following an evacuation order swiftly was called up for disciplinary action. We had random drills, about 12 per year. My job was to ensure that the building was clear, basically pop my head in each office space, toilets, kitchens, etc., and see that nobody was there and then take a register outside. 5 minutes tops. Anyone booked into the building that was not registered by me was in trouble. The drills were sprung on me, as well as the building manager had the fire alarm keys, and it made a more realistic test. The building manager was a jerk. He wielded his small amount of power as much as he could and loved to report people for tiny infractions. During one drill, he hid in a cupboard and then called me into his office for failing to ensure that the building was clear. Apparently, some people may run and hide from a fire instead of leaving the building. I got a wagging finger and told to do better next time or I would lose the marshal role. My job was pretty safe since nobody actually wanted to take over, and after hearing the story of me getting into trouble, they absolutely did not want the job. The building manager changed the fire marshal process instruction to include checking hiding places. This is a side instruction. We had no power to do so, I later found out. Malicious compliance begins. The alarm went off, the first after my failure to check cupboards. Everyone left, crossed the road, and stood in the assembly point in. And this is very important, the rain and wind. I searched the top floor very carefully, opening up large cupboards, opening up boxes large enough to hide a person, looking under each desk in case someone was hiding. First floor, ditto. UK, so our first floor is US second and our ground is US first. By now, people were cold and wet and unhappy, but building manager refused to let them enter. He knew that it was coming, so he was well prepared for the weather. Most people had light clothing on as the car park stood next to the building. They don't bother with coats and the 20-foot trip from the car to the building. Ground floor, checked everywhere, and finally the basement where the boiler lives and is a general dumping ground for old files and junk. That took ages, but I was thorough, very thorough, and slow. I left the building, took the register, and a mass of sudden people headed back into the building. I was massively unpopular until I showed them the PL that said I had to check all spaces that someone could hide in. They knew what happened at the last test and directed all of the anger at the building manager. It was the equivalent of the angry villagers turning up at Castle Frankenstein with torches and pitchforks. People were furious at him. One of the office staff was a union rep and reported him to the site safety officer, who went ballistic at him, telling me to remain in a potentially burning building longer than necessary, and a number of people went home to get dry clothes, and the company had to give them special leave to do so, or else the union would have to get involved. He got crap from all sides: workers, union, management, and site safety officer. Most of the time, nothing gets done when it's just you complaining, but it really gets done when the correct people are inconvenienced. Make sure you know what I'm working on before letting me go. I was working for a logistics company several years ago. They went through a merger and wound up shutting our office down. They presented it to us like they were doing us a favor and expected me to pick up and move states to keep working with them. That obviously wasn't in the cards, so what happened next was a bit of fun. When we got the email talking about the merger, I had my reservations. When we got a second email indicating that the company president, VP, head of sales, and an HR supervisor were all coming down to meet our 8-person office, I clearly saw the writing on the wall. You don't send that type of firepower if something great is happening. The day of the meeting comes up, and they told us that due to the merger, they were shutting down our office, but we could go to any of the other offices they or the new company had. I wasn't 100% not going to move, but I wanted to know my options. To say they weren't prepared for this meeting is an understatement. I asked them several questions that were critical to me making a decision on my future within the next 5 days. 1. Will you pay my moving expenses? 2. Will you pay to break my lease? Which was March, and I renewed my lease in February. 3. Will you pay cost of living adjustments if average costs are higher where I go? The answer to all 3 initially was, "We don't know. We'll have to get back to you." This was on a Friday, and they told me by the end of the day I would have my answers. Shockingly enough, come Monday, I did not have these answers. I told this to my local manager, and he hopped on the phone. About 30 minutes later, I get my answers. No, no, and no. While I had expected these answers, I could tell they did not expect my next question. By the merger, I had just gone over 3 years with the company. I asked them what the severance package looked like. One more time, I was told, "We don't know. We will have to get back to you." A couple of hours later, they offered me 1 month's salary, not factoring in my commissions, which had exceeded my salary. Not only did they offer me scraps, they wanted me to sign a new non-compete with all sorts of new teeth. Needless to say, I told them no thanks to all of it. This made them mad, and then they told me that I could turn in my stuff and would be paid for the next 2 weeks. What they didn't know or ask is what I was working on. In the business, it's typically very easy to pick up the ball for someone else. Unknown to them, I was working on an incredibly complicated project, moving a portable air traffic control tower from Jacksonville to Puerto Rico. This is also a government project since it's involving airports, so all of the T's needed to be crossed along with all of the I's dotted. To get this down to PR, we put it on a barge. This thing was basically a massive camper converted with a pop-up tower and all sorts of electronics if you're trying to imagine it, oversized and needing permits to move. I honestly can't tell you what happened from this point. I never found out. All I can do is sit around from time to time and chuckle about whoever tried to pick up my slack stepped into a hornet's nest the likes of which I couldn't have set up had I planned and tried. They let me go on the spot since they didn't want me harvesting info to poach customers and start my own gig. What they didn't know is that I knew all of this was coming and had already printed out everything I needed several days before. Had they asked me to see this thing through, I probably would have. Am I the jerk for walking away when my friends joked about fairy rings? For people who don't know what fairy rings are, they're rings, usually made out of mushrooms, in fields. There's folklore attached to them that says if a human steps into one, the fairies will take them away. I know this is not real, but I grew up with a very superstitious grandmother who would tell me this stuff all the time. As a kid, if she saw me walking towards one, she would literally yell for me to stop and change direction. As an adult, again, I know they are not real, but that doesn't mean I'm about to start walking through fairy rings willy-nilly. I live with my boyfriend and 2 friends, a couple, and we arranged to meet another couple for a hike. They tease me a lot for being superstitious, as there have been a few times that that's come up. We were hiking, and I saw a fairy ring directly ahead. Again, I know they aren't real, but I just tilted a little to the left, so I went around. No one noticed. Then, a few minutes later, there was another, and again, I went around. This then happened a 3rd time. At that point, my friend asked why I kept swerving away from the group. I was like, huh? Didn't notice. But boyfriend realized and burst out laughing, telling them what I'm doing. They started laughing and joking, and then began jumping in and out of the ring and stomping and kicking the mushrooms while teasing me about it. They were loud enough that a few people nearby were looking over, and they looked like total jerks. I told them to stop, but they didn't. I then started walking. We were on our way back, so I just kept going. They caught up with me a few minutes later, and 3 out of the 5 people I was with said I was being a prat and overreacting, making them feel bad and ruining a nice day out. I said that acting like jerks in public wasn't my idea of a good time, and they said I was being a jerk. The other 2 said the joke's over, let's just head back, and things went back to normal-ish. However, once we were back, my boyfriend rounded on me and echoed his earlier sentiments. He was one of the people who gave me crap, saying that I embarrassed him and was acting crappy over a joke, and I'm being overly superstitious and need to chill. I said he was being a jerk then, and he's being one now, and I'm sick of them teasing me, and they should have known when I wasn't laughing along that I didn't find it funny. He said they aren't mind readers, and I can't expect them to just know I don't find things funny, and I owe him and the others an apology for getting upset over a joke about something I take too seriously anyway. Am I the jerk? Well, who do you agree with? OP or her boyfriend? Please let us know. Boss got mad at me for wasting time organizing. How I realized my job wastes more money than I make. I spent a ridiculous amount of time looking for pins, important keys, and work essentials yesterday. In fact, that's every day for the last year. Spent the last 15 minutes of work yesterday organizing our 2 main, only drawers that were cramped with things from over the year and making sure daily essentials were easily accessible. Came into work today, typical day. Things got super slow, so I continued my organizing efforts. Found hundreds of dollars in equipment that had been forgotten over the years, but mostly trash I discarded. Took about an hour in between pausing to take care of immediate things. I was almost finished when boss came over and starts haphazardly organizing things, basically complaining I'm being too thorough and that we weren't going to be using this precious time to organize. I asked if everything was okay and got snapped at as boss swept what was left to organize back into the drawer. I then spent the next 20 minutes doing nothing, expecting the theatrics to be followed by what was supposedly so much more important. 20 minutes. It would have taken me less than 10 to finish organizing while not having any further instruction. I open the drawer, messy once more, and see boss's phone. I close the drawer. I mean, this is the level of organization we aspire for, right? Who am I to waste time questioning this? Boss eventually gives me a sheet to check inventories with. I haven't been trained on this particular task. I make that clear, but I'm barked at about how simple it is. The sheet doesn't make any sense, so eventually boss comes over and starts trying to storm through it. Oh, wrong sheet? Man, if only we were organized. Eventually get to the end of it, and we're missing hundreds of dollars in inventory. Boss had been helping, so I clearly state that I had approached my task carefully, one by one, and in order, with double checks, and I know I hadn't messed up. Eventually, boss asks if I've seen their phone. I say yes. Where? You organized it. Don't you remember? Boss barks at me with the same question. I say they swept it into the drawer with everything else. Boss says they don't remember that, and I say nothing as boss returns to their office. Why didn't I say anything? It was all on camera anyway, and the perfect spot actually. I'm quitting this job shortly, so I didn't feel the need to make it a big deal. Epilogue. A former coworker, a great one, visited and confirmed that things in the drawer were years old. We have a pretty high turnover rate, and it's because employees either don't care or actually do care and are penalized for it, or both. We've lost 2 senior employees in a month, and I'm just sitting here with a secret deadline until I'm out too. Though after today, why not at least look for another job? I can already hear myself. Why did I leave my last job? We didn't share the same values and organization. I felt a lot of man hours were being wasted due to an unorganized environment. I've shot up the totem pole a lot because of turnover and have accepted increased responsibilities. By my calculations, in just over a month, we've wasted somewhere around $3,000 due to lack of organization, and that's only from the responsibilities I've inherited. If things are proportional in each department, that number multiplies easily. This means organizational mishaps cost my job more than I even make. P.S. Would it be unethical to ask for a raise, knowing full darn well no amount they pay me is making me stay more than a few more months? Have you ever felt unappreciated at your job? If so, what did you do about it? Please let us know. Coworker that thinks she owns and runs everything. A bit of backstory. I, 28 male, will be turning 29 later this year. I've been working at my current job since before lockdown and through it as an essential worker. However, I will have to generalize a lot of details so as to not get in trouble. Now, pretty much ever since I started working at my job, food service, there was one particular woman that pretty much defines the meaning of Karen in the workplace. From day one, she would often yell at me or other coworkers. Now she pretty much just leaves me be. I've worked my way up from delivering the food to cooking it. However, back when I first started, there was this one particular cook that I would joke around with a lot. We would honestly make the kitchen sound more like a zoo. Then one day, while I was on lunch, he had gotten to work and pretty much immediately grabbed his stuff and walked because she never had anything ready for him that he needed to do his job, and her excuse every time was, "I'm just so tired." Now, she was put in charge of training his replacement. However, that poor girl didn't make it through the training shift because of how much Karen, not her actual name of course, was yelling at her. Then, after another coworker got a former coworker to join our fold, Karen would constantly yell at him too. Then, one day when I was in charge of one side of the service line, I basically had no one to help me, and Karen flat out insulted one of my coworkers that I've known since high school and think of as a little sister, and she thinks of me as a big brother. Now Karen yells at me 5 times to get someone to help me, and I immediately replied each time that there was no one available to help me. And at one point, she even yelled at one of the managers to yell at me to get someone to help, and that manager immediately replied with, "He's already told you 5 times that there isn't anyone available to help him, so what do you expect me to do about it?" Shortly after that, I ended up breaking down crying, and my boss sent me home to rest and recover. However, I wish that Karen's awfulness ended there, but it doesn't. She constantly yells at everyone about how they're not doing their jobs, when yes they are, or at least they're trying to, and whenever certain people would try to help me with a certain task, per our boss instructions, she would immediately yell at them to do something else instead. She even has other people not doing things correctly, such as rinsing things with her bare hands. She has even been instructed several times to stop doing that as it's a health code violation. Most recently though, she decided that she was going to overrule the decision of the same manager that she had yelled at to yell at me on a day when we were short-handed. Then, because she was upset, she decided to leave work without telling anyone, called the top manager of our department, and lied to him about her. So this weekend was ruined because of this, but after a quick short investigation, he immediately realized that Karen had lied. Yet she still acts rude towards pretty much everyone. Basically, no one likes her in the kitchen, and we are all praying for the day that she leaves. We basically refer to her as the jerk kitchen princess. She's always trying to go behind the boss's back to have it be her way or the highway, even though she's been told repeatedly about new protocol and how to do certain tasks from now on. If you enjoyed these stories, come watch this one next. You won't believe what happens in that one.